Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 160 of Flesh and Pod. My name's Logan. I am your host. Trevor, I don't know if you knew this, but we've never missed an episode. This is 160 fucking weeks in a row, and I fucking don't care about the algorithm today. I just could not care less.
You did not wait nearly long enough.
No. We're past the algorithm today, boys. We don't give a shit. My name is Logan. I'm your host. With me, as always, is Darick Oswald, and join us today is I'm going to butcher your official title, but Premier Play Manager for Flesh and Blood. Is that close?
It's close, yeah. So I'm the director of Premier Play and Conventions. So
all right, that's pretty fucking close.
Yeah. It's all good.
It's important. Directors are above managers.
It's
as a state administrative manager, I do not get director.
It's all good. Yeah.
This is not a live stream, by the way, in case that matters for your directors, Charmer.
Don't remind me.
With us is the director of Premier Play and Conventions, Trevor Baker. Trevor, thank you for taking time with us. It's been a fucking day in the Flesh and Blood biosphere, I guess, as this is Sunday, December 22nd, as of right now. How are you doing?
Yeah, gosh, it seems like these holiday times, like we can't escape people having their moment in the sun, because I feel like something else happened around the holidays last year with a different creator as well. So no rest for people, but no, it's good. You know, this was we just wrapped up the events calendar in Chicago last weekend, and it's been good. I've had this past week was the last week my kids were in school for before the holidays, so I'm very happy that tomorrow I don't have to be up at 7 in the morning to take my daughter to elementary school. So I'm excited for that.
Let's not talk about what time I go to work. But
yeah, I was just thinking to myself, my kids are also on break, and I get to all day long tomorrow, in all likelihood, hear, "Hey Dad, when are you going to get done with work? Hey Dad, will you play Fortnite with us? Hey Dad, when are you free?" Because I still have to work tomorrow. I will be working remotely from my home office, but I will be remote. So every time I leave to go to the bathroom, or when I go down for lunch, I know they're going to be like, "Does that mean you're done? You're out of your office?" Like it's, a jail cell or something.
Yeah.
Well, So my my mom, I found out, has started listening to this show on occasion, which is,
I'm sorry,
chef's kiss. I mean, my mom's the best.
But I didn't want you to find out this way, Logan, but that's because we listen together in bed.
Huh. Well, I mean, good for her. But she's also, she's a great cook. You're probably very happy. But any rate, my mom has this tendency of sort of giving hints because she never wants to ask anything directly. And so she's like, "So in case everybody wants to come early, I'm cooking, chicken and noodles," which she makes amazing chicken and noodles on Monday night. And then I'm making caramel rolls and cinnamon rolls in the morning, which she makes fucking great, amazing cinnamon rolls and caramel rolls. So if anybody wants to show up early, and it's like, So I went from going to my hometown on after I get done working on Tuesday to then going after I get done working tomorrow, and that will be and it's my mom. I'm obviously going to go and keep my mom happy if she wants her children around for the holiday season, and her grandchildren or great grandchildren. So we will be there. We'll be doing the thing, plying her with chocolates and mango lassi from the Indian restaurant here, as she found out that she is a sucker for mango lassi.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It's just so good. And so we have my favorite restaurant in Des Moines. Now we're in food, by the way. My favorite restaurant in Des Moines to eat at on a regular basis is this Nepalese restaurant called Kathmandu. It is actual 8 blocks from my house.
Yeah.
And I'm in there so often. I bring in like giant groups of people whenever we do events at my LGS, because it's across the street from this place. And so we'll roll in 12 deep and just order the whole goddamn menu, it feels like. But they've gotten to the point now that if I go in, they're always like just discounting the check or comping it or whatever. So today it was like, go eat dinner. And then I'm like, I need 3 mango lassi. And then they charge me for 2 and bring me 4. I'm like, okay. I mean, somebody else is going to love having a mango lassi now too. So perfect. No notes.
The more the merrier. Yeah.
Yeah. These guys are incredible though. They work their asses off. They make insane food. Sometime, Trevor, you got to come to Des Moines just once.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been to Iowa. Gosh, yeah. Nepalese though, that's it's so cool because it's kind of like this fusion between you've got kind of like the Indian side to it, but then you've also got kind of like this Chinese side to the cuisine as well. So it's you kind of get like dumplings and curry kind of like going on. I feel like at some of these Nepalese.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're eating like
like there was a Nepalese place in one of the suburbs out here in Hillsborough, and they do like their butter chicken in such a way that it's like so normally like butter chicken is a little bit more yellow and orange, but theirs is like red, and it's super tasty, and with some naan and everything. Oh my god, so good.
Yeah, piles of garlic naan, and I love yellow curry. Like a good yellow curry just is perfect. They do a mango corn soup, and they will dial up the heat on it for me, so it will like clean me out. It's great. I love that place. It's so good. So if you're ever in the Des Moines area, Kathmandu is the restaurant you want to go to. It's just so good.
Yeah.
At any rate, this is not a food show. It could be.
It could be. I mean, we could be. We could just talk about events through the lens of like
where are the best places to eat.
Where are the best places to eat? So, but it's okay. I mean, we'll go through a bunch of things, and we can, we'll talk about some events, and we'll talk about where the best places you should eat when you come to Pro Tour London, or when you go to Prague, or wherever. We can totally dive into the culinary side of it and everything.
God, I love eating. I'm not fat on accident, so At any rate, so we're usually when we have new people on, we like to dive in a little bit to the storytelling portion of the things, because nobody comes from the same spot. Although randomly, Brian and I we're fairly close in story, apparently, which weirded me out a little bit. But so like for you, you grew up in Pacific Northwest. Which was kind of the haven for TCGs early on specifically. So is that how you kind of got into this sort of space?
Well, I mean, I would say that's just more a bit coincidence. So when I was younger, I think the first sort of impression that like unlocked that there was TCGs for me, like as a young kid, as a young boy, was Pokemon, right? Like I was probably in, I don't know, somewhere in elementary school. That would be maybe like 3rd or 4th grade or 2nd grade or something like that, where Pokemon first comes on the TV, and this whole concept of what a trading card is. So obviously, Magic the Gathering comes out when I'm like 4 years old, right? Like I just turned 35.
Fucking stop.
Yeah.
Jesus
so
Christ.
I just turned 35. All right. So let's just put that out there for context, right? So, anyways, Pokemon was the first thing that introduced me to the concept of what a local game store was, because that's, where you would go. Yeah, although at the time there was a lot of like sports card shops. Sports cards were a big thing in Portland, and actually before Pokemon, I think the first thing that even introduced me to the concept of cards was actually sports cards. So, you would go to these baseball card shops, and they would have some Pokemon, and you'd grab some Pokemon cards, whatever. The actual first card game that I played, though, was a card game called WWE Raw Deal. Or at the time, WWF Raw Deal. And so that comes out, and I think I was in 5th grade at the time, And I literally told myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to read the rule book. I'm going to learn how to play. And so, I put together my Chris Jericho deck and everything. I find out
All
when
right.
the first local tournaments are being held at my local game store at the time, which was called Eternal Elysium. And I would go there on my scooter, and I would scoot there.
Oh, you are from the Pacific Northwest. Holy fuck.
What's that?
You are from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
fuck.
Like one of those Razor scooters. Although actually,
Yeah.
it was before Razor scooters were really even a thing. I had like some pre Razor model, scooters, and so I would scoot the sort of 6 blocks or whatever to the local game store, and I would go and I would play in some of these events. And obviously, I didn't have much money, so so we have this thing in Oregon called bottle deposit, and so
We have it in Iowa too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically, you would go and take cans back, and every can you took back at the time was 5 cents, and so and you could usually take back up to like 140 or 144 cans or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get like $7 or $7.50. My family had obviously like between soda drinkers, my dad would drink a lot of beer, this sort of thing. So here would be this 11-year-old kid on his scooter with like a bag of cans, beer cans, whatever, and I would go down to Safeway and I would turn all the, and this was like back when you like literally like had to feed them through the machine yourself.
One by one.
And so I would just have like beer drippings like going like, down my arm and down my leg and everything. And I would just be chucking these cans in there. And then, afterwards you'd get the little ticket, you'd go, and then you'd get your money. And, somewhere along the way, I'd need to wash my hands and everything. So it was gross. And then I get back on my scooter and I go up from there to the card shop. And if it was a good day, maybe I'd have enough money for 2 packs, or maybe I'd have 1 pack. Or there was also like a little pizza place that was next door called Pizza Baron. And so sometimes they would have these really cheap pizza days. And so this was back when you could like buy like a 7-inch pizza for like $2 or something. Gosh, those were the days. And so some days it'd be like, all right, I've got enough money for a pack of cards and and a cheap pizza or whatever. So seriously, like that was how I would spend pretty much like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Was just like I would play with wrestling cards, and I would go and take cans back and everything. And then like everything that happens, unfortunately, that local game store closed. This was like pre like the internet really popping off or whatever. So like,
sure,
didn't have smartphone or anything like that. I didn't even have a basic flip phone yet until I think I was in like 6th or 7th grade. So I didn't really have a way to communicate with all these people that I had met at this game store, and then the game store closed. And so I actually went through like a phase in my life for 6 months to a year where I didn't even really know where to go. And then eventually through, like going to one other game store that was close to my grandma's house, I found out that there was another game store that opened up, down the road. And then eventually I found where a lot of this community had, came back together out in Gresham, and then spent a number of years playing other card games from Magic, played Magic for many years. Magic was always kind of like in the background, I would say, as I would get into other TCGs. So when Yu-Gi-Oh came out, I played a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh. I played a game called Magi Nation. When I was 13, actually, I was at a Magic event, and there was a guy that came in to one of the shop events, and I saw that he had a Magic pre-release like staff shirt, and I was like, "Oh, what is this? Were you like, do you work for Wizards of the Coast or something?" And he was like, "No, we do these things called pre-releases, and we have staff, and we do these down by the convention center, every 4 months or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool. How can I be a part of it?" And and so little like 13-year-old me, who's like hungry for opportunities, goes and I get in on like the Mirrodin pre-release as a scorekeeper, and so and I study and eventually become like a Magic judge, become level 1, level 2 Magic judge, do a bit of that, and that's how I like literally get my foothold in this thing, is just like by being a part of some events, by being a part of a Magic judge, going to some of these events, in the Northwest, and then kind of sprawling out from there. And I do that for, pretty much until I turn 18 or so. And then I go to university, go to college. And that's where I kind of maybe step away from TCGs a bit, right? Because you kind of go through this sort of thing where you're just like, all right, I'm 18, I'm in a new environment, I'm no longer, living at my parents' house, I've got independence,
I'm drinking way too much.
you're drinking, you have a roommate that looks like Bob Marley, so whether or not you wanted to smoke pot, you're gonna have to smoke pot.
I didn't have the Bob Marley roommate,
Yep,
sadly.
yep,
Fuck.
dude. I mean, he was totally like awesome guy, awesome guy. His name was Joe, and he looked like Bob Marley, and yeah, big stoner. And so between I don't know what's the saying, sex, drugs, and alcohol, right? So
And rock and roll, but sure, yeah.
yeah, and rock and roll. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, that university happens, and you have a good time. I study abroad, do a bunch of things, graduate, take a few jobs out of school, and then one thing leads to another, and I kind of get roped back into doing some project management work for Magic, and then one thing leads to another, and because I still know all these people from before, right? So
Yeah, sure.
even though I wasn't as involved for several years, I knew all these people that were in the industry, because it's still a very small community, and so just these things, they swoop you back in, and we do obviously some of those crazy events that happened in Las Vegas, with 4,000, 5,000, and then 10,000 people,
Yep.
and was a part of all of that. So did the whole, kind of jumped ship, joined Channel Fireball back then. Then we became CFB Events, and we took over the Grand Prix contract from 2018 onwards. And I was pretty much responsible for, from that point forward, organizing 50 plus events around the year, events around the world each year. And so that was like, for me, that was just like such a huge opportunity to be a part of that. I mean, people will say, oh, one company had this monopoly doing this whole thing. But, the reality is, you can really achieve some amazing things when you have economy of scale, and you can build a team, and you can set up the infrastructure, the registration systems that we were able to have, the way that we could operate around the world, being able to offer a global customer service for people playing events. And I think there's a lot of Magic players that think back to that sort of era of Magic as kind of like the golden era of Grand Prix. Was like this 2018, 2019 sort of thing, where you could just go around every, like the United States had like 25 events a year, alone.
Yep.
And there would be 15 events in Europe, and then there would be, a small smattering of shows in, Japan, Asia, and Australia, and that sort of thing. And so I know there's a lot of people that kind of loathe for that. And so, and then the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And as you can imagine, the live events world just pretty much died overnight. And, there were obviously some people that were retained to do some, online business and online events and that sort of thing. But you didn't really need the people that put the physical production together. So as of July of 2020, myself and a lot of our colleagues were, let go. And and then I have a friend that told me about this thing called Flesh and Blood, and then the rest is just kind of history from there. So what a whirlwind of things. But yeah.
You hit on two things that may seem like they're irrelevant to the story, but they're very relevant to Darick and I. One is that we are purveyors of dead TCGs.
Yeah.
And so we need to kind of walk back to the whole raw deal thing. But I do want to like talk a little bit about the monopoly, the CFB monopoly, right?
Yep, sure.
And as a like in the Midwest, it was sort of a double-edged sword for us, because one, CFB events saved us from pastimes and professional event services, PES, because oh my God, they were very, very bad at what they did. I still remember Grand Prix Detroit. Charmer might even have been there. But Grand Prix Detroit during Eldrazi Winter of Magic, we were actively gambling on the round timer of how far overtime it would go. And I would set an over under. And Josh McClain, I don't know if you remember Josh.
Sounds very familiar. Yeah.
He was a top 10 player in the world of Magic for about 3 years.
Okay.
But he was on Team Channel Fireball for a little while, and him and I were gambling on the clock, and he kept losing, but the clock kept going higher, and so he's finally like, I'm setting the over under this time. I'm like, okay. He's like, and you name the number you want to gamble, and I'm like, okay. He goes 72 minutes over. I'm like, okay, over $1,000, and he's like, easiest $1,000 I ever made. So when the clock hit 73 minutes, I went, so PayPal, or do you want to go sell some stuff? Like, how do you want to resolve this? It was that bad. And the one thing that really was the downside of that for us was that also in the Midwest, we had Legion events.
Mm-hmm.
And say what you will about anything else, Steve Port is an absolute legend at running events.
Yes.
Clean. Yeah. And so while we kind of got rid of, the bad ones, we also lost Steve doing, basically being the full on head of the event. And it was interesting though, like later on down the road, he started just being as a part of the staff for the events from like 2019, late 2018, early 2019, kind of carrying through. So it eventually worked itself out.
Well, because we recognize talent, right? So
right.
So, Steve was, Steve was really great at what he did. And, obviously Steve has went on and, had a very successful career with Legion and then selling his business to Ultra Pro. Everything. Mm-hmm. Steve is somebody who I would consider a good friend. In fact, when we did US Nationals in Minneapolis on whatever it was, I think Friday night, me and a few others, we went out and grabbed dinner with Steve. So I keep good contact with these folks, and so Steve's a great guy.
He sure is. I love that guy.
Of course, there would be some people that would kind of get I don't know, kind of lost in the shuffle of things when you consolidate those sorts of things. But the thing was, it's like taking on 50 some odd events, you needed to be able to scale up and bring in people who could help you out, and Steve was one of those people that could help us out. So
absolutely.
It allowed us to get really good at what we were doing really fast, right? Because when you're doing 50 events a year, you're going to fail pretty quickly if you don't, learn from your mistakes and figure your shit out and that sort of thing. And so, we were able to get, really good at what we did pretty quickly just because of the frequency, that I think that's one of the hardest things just with event organizing in general. It's like when you get one opportunity a year or one opportunity every 2 years or whatever, like it's very hard to get good at it, right? Like you aren't getting the reps, right? And like, even if you have one good show, like you're going to lose that knowledge. It's going to age, these kinds of things. It's hard. It's hard if you aren't getting to do these things with like any kind of, frequency. So, yeah.
That's why Darick and I stay on the bleeding edge of podcasting, because we do it all the fucking time.
There you go.
But
yeah.
But yeah, so Matt Tickle, if you know Matt, he works with Steve. He actually makes all of our Play Magic some merch. I grew up playing Magic with him.
Yep.
In Northern Iowa. So it's a small world sometimes. We are going to become a Raw Deal podcast for a few minutes here, though, because Darick is a well-known Raw Deal aficionado. Were you the APA guy? You feel like you were the APA guy.
No, I played a lot of Kane.
Oh, you were Kane. Okay.
Yeah. Because there for a while, Kane wasn't super popular, and because of their fun mechanics with the way they did certain top eights, it was like
the best mechanic.
beneficial to play the underdogs. So I just had to be better than every other Kane in the room, which usually wasn't hard.
Was Kane?
Do you remember how?
Yeah, ability, the one where like every turn your opponent had to mill a card, I think, or something like that.
Basically.
Yep.
Now, do you remember how top 8s worked in Raw Deal, Trevor?
No, I don't remember this.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So it was the people who made the top 8 were the people with the best record for their wrestler.
Okay.
So, like, let's say you were Chris Jericho and you were second. You went 7-1, but a Jericho went 8-0. You're not in the top 8. But that 3 and 5 Spike Dudley is.
Wow. So
Because-
it would be like the 8 best different wrestlers, essentially.
Yes.
Correct.
Interesting.
That's why I
So,
said I
like-
just had to be better than every other Kane in the room.
Yeah.
So we've talked about this about 1,000 times at this point in the show, because it's one of the best things ever when it came to just really fucked up decision making. And it's like, I kind of just want to do one Flesh and Blood event this way, where, you can play Zen or Enigma all day long, but only one gets in. So you better be the best one.
Well, so this is one of the things that I think L5R did well, where they did
The clans. Yep.
Yeah, so they didn't like police their top 8, but what they would do is if you were like, I don't know, the best Rat Clan player, even if you were like 53rd in the tournament, but you were the best Rat Clan player, you got like some sort of like recognition or whatever for being top in clan and that sort of thing. So, yeah, this is something like, this is one of those things that's on like the laundry list of things that I would love to do for Flesh and Blood, where we could, recognize like, the I don't know, what's a class I should pick on? Merchant? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. If you were the best, I mean, that's the thing. I'm actually struggling because so many of the classes are like very viable right now. So, like
best warrior.
Yeah, or I guess like historically I would have said Ranger, but Azalea's great. So, but let's say you were the best Ranger and there were no Rangers in top 8, right? But then we would give you a prize of, something like that. And so I don't know. Yeah, those were always things that, I feel like there's something there, but like at what cadence do you do this? Because like if you're doing 20 plus callings a year, like the calling level is probably still too many, events. Like
I would say Pro Tour level.
So maybe at the Pro Tour level, if you, pack the, if you're an assassin and there's, no assassins for days, but you get something for being the top assassin or something. I don't know. I just felt like that would be kind of, a cool way to recognize people, whether it's with a little plaque or a little memento or, something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, or you could even do it at Worlds. And so they end up getting, a hero card that says something, right?
Yeah.
I'll be the best Arachne huntsman in the room, and then you can give me a little memento mori. How about that?
There we go.
For fuck's sake.
Come on, that was good.
It was B+ material.
All right,
but
well, listen, let me try to tie it all together, because we were talking about Grand Prix Detroit. We were talking about
Grand Prix Detroit is about right.
Same thing. We were talking about trying to scale up quickly and, hoping for better things. And I just wanted to remind Trevor that the city of Detroit actually has its own flag with 2 Latin phrases on it. One is "we hope for better things," and the other phrase is "it will rise from the ashes." So
don't drink the water.
Those were both added after the Great Fire that occurred in the early 1800s that burned the entire city down. So, if you just wanted to have an event in a really cool city with an awesome flag, Detroit should be maybe considered. I'm just saying.
Interesting. I mean, I do think there are many cities that have flags, actually.
Okay, but do those cities have the first paved mile of highway in the country, like Woodward Avenue? Do those cities have the roots, if you will, of the oldest soda still in production in the United States in Verner's, which, by the way, came from a Union veteran who invented that. So we're avoiding those, racist roots like Coca-Cola has, or the fascist roots of Fanta. We can go with some wholesome soda.
I will say,
Look,
Detroit,
I'm just speaking history, Logan. It's not. Look, if you want to have an event in a city where Houdini performed his last show at, and then he died there on Halloween. Look, I'm just saying, if you got a spooky set coming, you could maybe align that.
So one of the things I would say Detroit definitely has going for it is that Detroit is right on the border with Canada, and Canada needs more love. So
absolutely,
that alone is like a great reason for Detroit to get some opportunities. So
it's also a major Delta hub for flights and international flights inbound. And
so is this an official announcement for calling Detroit? I'm wondering now.
The thing, I mean, we'll cover this over the course of things, but I mean, Detroit is one of those cities that's always in kind of our scope when we're searching for where we're going to put events.
That's Detroit's problem. It's always in the scope.
Right.
You know what? Is another fun fact about Detroit? It holds the record for the most times a city has bid to host the Summer Olympics and not gotten it. But it could be the spot of the Olympics for Flesh and Blood. I'm just saying, Worlds is going to be in North America. We know that this year.
No, that's a hard road to hoe.
I'll break the news to you right now that the venue and the destination for Worlds is confirmed, and it will not be Detroit. So
there's always next year.
There's always
we can have Worlds the same year as the Olympics.
So okay, Trevor, since you opened the door a little bit on this one, we're not going to get the announcement now, obviously, for where and when Worlds is. That is definitely not happening.
Sure.
But can you tell us when we will find out?
Yeah. So just realistically speaking, with the way that things are teed up at the moment, I think the first sort of announcement that you'll kind of see come from us will be around probably the end of January, beginning of February. We will reveal the APAC Pro Tour. So we owe people that first, give people a proper 6 months heads up on what's going on there. And then I think realistically, you're probably going to find out the World's location at Pro Tour London. So, which will give people a good, 6-7 months of where.
Well, I was just going to say, based on 6 month, I was thinking, all right, well, so probably April-ish.
Yep. So
I want to hop back. Let's hop into this really quick because this actually matters a ton to me.
Yeah.
When we first started this show 3 fucking years ago at this point, one of our biggest gripes was, this was the old host too. This isn't even Charmer. This is the pre-Charmer era.
Mm-hmm.
Good host.
I mean, I was still here, dumbass. But the one of our biggest things was we never had enough lead time to plan events. Like, we were always scrambling to be like, oh shit, there's a thing in 6 weeks. Like, how the fuck? And I will say that that's gotten way better.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, way better is an understatement. It's as good as you can pretty much expect for the last year at least. And is that something we can continue to expect? Is that sort of regular cadence where we know 6 months ahead of time?
I mean, to be honest, I would like it to be further in advance. There's this balance, right? So like, on one hand, it would be really nice to just put all of our cards on the table and just tell you the full 2025, calendar, right? And that would be awesome to be able to do that, right? It's tough because you look at the way that Flesh and Blood is and the story that we tell and the way that the cadence at which we share information and that sort of thing. And like, if you spoil all that, like think about even our product releases, right? Like we're very careful about the information that goes out there, the journey that we want to take you on for the hunted and all this sort of stuff. And, we don't want you thinking about set 16 or set 17 or these kinds of things, right? It's like totally different than some of our competitors where they're like, here's our product roadmap for the next 4 years or whatever, right?
Which I hate.
And so that's like the complete opposite, right? then we're kind of on the other end of the spectrum. And it's like, where do you find that balance of like, you know, sharing a reasonable amount of information with a good amount of lead time, but still leaves you enough room to tell the story and to have some surprises along the way and to focus people's attention, right? Because like, it is true that if we gave you like a full, you know, year's sort of thing, or like 18 months even, or something like that, then, you know, people might skip, you know, more events or different things, or they might not focus in on the ones that we want them to focus in on. Or, you know, if you knew where all the world premieres were going to be, would you go to Prague? Would you not? You know, that sort of thing. So it's a tough balancing act. I mean, I think we'll continue to kind of refine this a bit over time. I think even if we don't get to a point where we are sharing full information, being able to share like a few more key dates with people, like just disclosing, hey, Worlds is going to be on this weekend, and you know, the Pro Tours are going to be on these weekends, and the seasons are going to be on these dates, and that sort of thing. And then maybe we reveal the locations themselves a little bit later. We just say the region that they're going to be in. So I think there's some things that we can do to kind of fine tune, you know, some of this sort of stuff. But I'm generally on this side of like, I would rather you have like more visibility, just because it also allows us to speak a little bit more openly about it. It allows judges and staffing to focus, you know, a little bit further out into the future, right? Like they can plan, you know, where they're going to be in the world and that sort of thing. You know, and it allows us to not have to worry about, you know, a convention center accidentally, you know, publishing something on one of their websites, or a tournament organizer saying something and then the word getting out, or that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, for me, there is a balance here, right? We've got to figure out where that line exactly is, because up until this point, we really haven't had the luxury of this large runway of events and knowledge and where we're going to be and that sort of thing. Like leading up to Barcelona, I know that there were a lot of people that were like, all right, tell us where it is, you know, that sort of thing. And I feel like, but finally, once we hit Barcelona, you know, all of this past year, like you said, like being able to know where Osaka was, where Worlds was, like all the way from Los Angeles, and getting like 7 or 8 months notice was like, you know, huge for people. So, and I think it allowed Osaka to be, you know, as successful as it was, because people had, you know, 7 or 8 months to like look for the optimal flights and book your hotels and do this sort of thing. So, yeah, look, there's a balance there. There's a story we need to tell. But I definitely want to be on the side of giving people more information, or at least essential information, you know, when and where we can. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Fab hype cycle is pretty much unmatched at this point in time. It is so good at driving FOMO, if nothing else. If you can just look at the response to Prague and the fact that, you know, the world premiere sold out even before some people knew that, oh, it's in Prague. You know, it was so quick. And yeah, Darick's right there. And even the calling is mostly sold out and has been for a while.
Yep.
And a lot of those things, you know, and we talked.
I got that.
You did get that one.
I did get that one.
And we talked, you know, last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, when we were in Chicago, about, by the way, Three Little Pigs. We're going back one more time. So Trevor, you need to go to Three Little Pigs next time you're in Chicago. That was nuts.
Three Little Pigs. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Chinese restaurant run by son of, you know, second generation Chinese immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes the best rangoons probably on the planet, per Charmer's recommendation here.
Easily the best rangoons I've ever had. Yeah. And he even stopped in to like talk to us, and he explained why, because I was like talking about how the texture of his was better and the thickness, and he was like, well, he's like, you know, other places they double fry their, you know, rangoons, so the wontons end up being like crispier, whereas this was, I mean, it was still firm, but it was more, I don't know, like tender or flaky. Like it was a different texture, but in a good way. And then he was talking about how they'll like cheap out on the cream cheese, and that's why his felt thicker, and they were great. Like I was full stop And I waited for Logan to get there. I was like, I'm going to order more Rangoons. And
Yeah,
I
I
was
get
hurting
there-
on the way home, but it didn't matter. It was so worth it because they were good.
Wow.
Yeah, I got there and put an order in, and he's just finishing up his meal. And he's going to sit there and hang out. We're going to talk about Arachne for a while and just, hang out like we normally do. And as I'm sitting there waiting for my food, he's like, fuck it, I'm ordering more Rangoons. Just stands up, marches straight to the kiosk, and starts punching a fucking order in. And I'm like, they must be pretty damn good.
Wow. Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
go there. That's the message for
That's
that one.
awesome. Yeah, I did manage to check out Chicago Chinatown on Sunday morning. Klaus and I went over there and we got some dim sum on Sunday morning at a place called, I think it was like Han Ming's or Ming Han's Chinese place. It was very good, very good dim sum there. But look, I ate a lot of pizza. In Chicago. Had a lot of Chicago style pizza. Shout out to Luminati's. That
Luminati's.
Luminati's. That was
Malnati, Malnati.
Yeah.
It is an institution.
Oh my God. All we did was we got the pizza that was like clearly like the pizza that we were supposed to get, like the Illuminati special or whatever, and it was great. The way that they did the crust with like this butter crust in a pan and everything, and then the sauces on top. Great. Like Chicago style, full marks. Yeah. And this is coming from somebody who thought like Giordano's was like supposed to be like the go-to in Chicago.
Oh.
No.
No.
Clearly Illuminati's is where like I've got to, next time I'm in Chicago, go into Illuminati's. And then, there's still more to explore too. But I will definitely make Illuminati's part of the
Lou Malls, and then Paisanos, which is actually really close to where we were at.
We had that staff party on Sunday night, Paisanos.
That's also a Malnati family restaurant.
Is it really?
So same family. Yep, same family.
Hilarious.
But wonderful. Darick hates Chicago deep dish pizza though. So
this is not really even deep dish to me. Like this is more like pan pizza than it is deep dish, because like Detroit style deep dish is like proper thick like deep dish experience. Chicago style, it's probably more like this pan style that has like a pie crust. Like it's
a pie.
Yeah, it's more like a pie. It's very different. And I mean, and I can appreciate them for their own merits, but yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because that's always my complaint. It's not that I think that the food is bad. It's just not my favorite kind of pizza, because it's not what I think of when I think of pizza, right? It's not something I'm going to pick up by the slice with my hands and put in my face hole.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat it like the pasta pie that it is.
Right.
And that's fine. It's delicious that way. It's just not what I would consider to be my favorite pizza.
Yeah. And I'm kind of tainted now because another member of the studio and the team, Nico, he's a big like pizza aficionado. He's got his uni oven back in Spain and everything, and so we talk about the Neapolitan style pizza like as kind of like the proper pizza, right? Like you don't ever like slice the pizza, right? Like you cut it at the table, and you it's all about, technically from Neapolitan standards, right? It's just 4 things. It's just the dough, the tomato, the mozzarella, and the basil. That's technically all you need to make a proper, Neapolitan, style pizza. And so I can appreciate those pizzas for their merits as well. And then you've got like a whole, smattering of just other American style, pizzas and stuff. So,
yeah.
Pizza.
I will say that Detroit style is my favorite style of pizza.
Yeah.
Like, want to make sure that's out there. But the Chicago style is still fucking delicious.
Also,
I love it. But
something super important that I've got to get out there, like if you are like setting up a pizza restaurant, if you cannot make pizza that is better than Costco pizza, you should probably just not be in the business, because Costco pizza for $1.50 is like
It's a steal.
Like decent fucking pizza. So if you literally are making a pizza restaurant and your pizza does not taste better than Costco pizza, you need to pack it up. You need to move on to something else. Because to me, that is just like the line, right? Like,
yeah, I can't agree more. Like, you don't have to have a membership to walk into a Costco and get a slice of pizza.
Right.
You can go and pay $1.50 for a slice of delicious molten pepperoni pizza at any time.
Yep.
And it is, yes, that should be exactly replacement level pizza. Yes. If you cannot clear that bar, you are below the Mendoza line. Yep. You are below being a replacement player. Get your shit and go back to the minors.
Correct.
Like, I could not agree more.
Yep.
At any rate, we're talking about Prague because that was sort of the important portion of this conversation before we derailed in the Chicago food scene, which is an awesome food scene, by the way. But so with Prague, we had this discussion about cities and where you hold events and how you figure, what's on the table, what's not, and where you have your eyes on and things like that. So I wanted to talk a couple of things about that process. Specific to Prague, though, would be, it capped quick for the world premiere. And there's a lot more to do. It's not that there isn't more to do. It's that this particular event that people were super interested in capped very quickly. Did you anticipate that at all? Or was that just a, oh shit moment?
I mean, so Prague as a city and Prague as a destination is like a place that personally I've wanted to bring Flesh and Blood to for quite a while. Like, it's been a city that's been in the topic of conversation for the better part of, 18 months to 2 years, right? Like, it was a city that was on the short list against Barcelona. It's, was on the short list against Amsterdam and that sort of thing. So like, it's like been a city that we've been considering for a while. Look, world premieres are super popular, right? Like Tokyo, essentially, sold out. Tampa, we had, a little bit of room to work with, but we were, effectively sold out. The reason why Tampa wasn't necessarily sold out is because we could just kind of steal seats from the SCG con, right? So like,
which is funny.
Yeah. Because like, why not, right? And so with Prague, actually, it's kind of an interesting thing because so we're very fortunate to be in a venue in Prague where it's actually a bit modular. Like, we can just add like 1,000 square meters at a time and just kind of like keep expanding. So it's actually not really like a venue limitation in the case of Prague. Like, they're actually just like you hit a point where you've only made so many promo cards for the world premiere. You've only made so many play mats. Like, you only have so much lead time to be able to fix some of these things. And we did actually adjust some of this stuff. We went up to whatever it was, like 900, seats in the world premiere. And so it's like one of those things where like you look at a lot of your historicals, you look at, okay, we had around, 800 something Tokyo, 800 something in Tampa. We should be able to, plan for about the same number in Prague. And I think it's a little bit of the perfect storm, right? Like, Europe hasn't had a world premiere in a couple years, right? Like, their last one was Uprising in Madrid in 2022. So it'll have been a couple years. They're hungry for a world premiere. Prague is super cheap. People
ridiculously cheap.
Booking hotels for like 50, 60 euros a night. So it's dirt cheap. It's insanely cheap to fly there as an American. It's like $700 or less. If you're in Europe, you can fly there for like 100 euros or maybe 150 euros. So it's insanely cheap to get there. And, it's going to be cold, right? It's like, probably off season in that part of the world. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like the perfect storm of things. I wouldn't really say like the overall attendance, the overall pre-registration, like, I actually think we probably would have, done about this well for the show. It just happened a lot faster than I thought it would, right? So I think that's kind of what happened here is we have something where, there was a lot of energy. The marketing team really got the buzz out, like, hey, 70%, 80%, 90% sold. And so people were really buying into that hype in, the end of November when it was approaching the cap. And And yeah, like, look, we set the 900 person cap on the world premiere. We've got about 1,100 seats in the room, so we're still going to be able to take care of anybody who, bought a Fabled package, bought a Go Again package. We have a sealed event starting 2 hours later at 12. So, like, if you didn't get in the world premiere, sorry, those promos and playmats, we only have so many of them. That's for those folks. But, like, we want to ensure people can get reps before the calling. There'll be multiple chances to play sealed throughout the day. I think we've got events like launching every 2 hours for sealed on Friday. So like noon, 2, 4, and 6 or something like that. So there's literally like chances for you to play all day. There'll be several opportunities to play on Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very, very busy weekend in Prague, and it's very exciting. But I think more than anything else, it was just like the rate at which it sold out. Because the interesting thing now is, like, we still have some packages available, Fabled packages. We still have calling tickets available, not many, but knowing that those other things haven't sold out makes me think that there probably wasn't too many more people that we were turning away, right? Like, so we'll see how it all shakes out in the end. But yeah, I don't know. It's just going to be cool. It's going to be a fun time. Yeah. So
I know they got me kind of, because I went and I bought my ticket for the world premiere before I ever bought my plane ticket. Yeah. And that kind of thing, because flights were so cheap that, as you put it, I was like, okay, well, I haven't decided which days I really want to do yet, and kind of like look at work, what can I work out? But it's like, but I'm going to be there regardless. So I'm going to go buy this thing that looks like it's selling out and make sure I have that. And then not even 2 hours later, it was sold out. It's like, good call, I guess. But so like with Prague, obviously you talk about how you wanted to put an event in Prague for a while because it's a great travel city and everything you just listed. I mean, yes, my hotel's like $300 for 6 nights.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous.
The architecture is amazing in Prague.
Yeah.
Like, it's this Gothic, kind of inspired, architecture. And it's cool. And there's a whole beer and party scene and cabarets and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm staying at like a nice, like a Marriott. Like, I'm not staying at a hostel run by a dude with bloodstains on his pants and a missing hand. Right. I mean, that's not what we're doing here. Shout out to anybody that's got bloodstains on their pants and missing a hand. We love you too. But the point of the matter is that, like, it's a real easy city to travel to. And how much does that kind of go in the calculus? Like, when you're looking at a city and going, I would like an event to be here, how much of that starts to factor in the travelability, the drivability, the scene around it, because Darick, you have, no, I can see your hand.
I know, but I was pausing to say, I think that, because this was one of the questions that I had, but I think that perhaps the better way to phrase this is, do you pick a city first and then find a venue, or do you, for ease of finding stuff, have like a series of like pre-vetted venues and then you look through for cities, right? Because logistically these events, I obviously don't ever pretend to know as much as you do, right? But I think about all that goes into it when I'm on a broadcast, right? So you got to have space for the players. You got to have space for the vendors. You got to have space for the side events. You have to have space for the prize walls. You have to have a place with, if you're going to do a live stream, good enough internet to handle it, space for where the cameras are, and that has to be away from where the commentators are so that the players can't hear the commentators when we get really excited like we do, all of that. And so I was curious whether you guys did any sort of pre-vetting of venues first and then like that becomes your list, or do you say like these are cities we're interested in for XYZ and then you look at venues? Like, I was curious what the order was.
Yeah, so it's more the latter, where the venue drives the decision making. However, so I operate already with kind of a knowledge of what are the venues in the cities, so I can kind of think more the former, because I already know what cities are qualified. So I've already done a lot of that that vetting, right? So like I know, you know, these destinations a bit, but at its core, it's very much the venue is driving a bit of that. Like so when we're considering like where we're going to put places, like the venues drive the decision making, right? Like, is it available? What is the price? What does the offer look like? What are some of the terms in the contract? Like these kinds of things. What is the hotel situation nearby? What is the transport situation, in the proximity? Is there going to be, places for people to stay and eat and, these kinds of things. So we kind of build a profile on these destinations to kind of get a sense of, is this like a qualified venue for us to host um, an event in? And it's kind of interesting, like the size and the scale of the event will naturally limit your options, whereas like something that's just a battle hardened or even a smaller calling, you're going to have like thousands of or hundreds of options of where you could put something. But when you get all the way to the extreme end of like a world championship or a pro tour, the list of places that you might hold that are actually quite a bit smaller, right? Because you've got different criteria. You're looking for larger venues. Those larger venues have less availability and those sorts of things. So it is kind of an interesting thing depending on what you're trying to source for. Those and that's why like getting those big events locked in far in advance is very key, because those are kind of the pillars of the schedule, and everything else can kind of like fall in place around them. But we can't really build out everything else around those big things. Those big things need to be kind of sorted out, because you might not go to a particular city for a calling or a battle hardened if you know you're going to use that city for worlds, right? Or you're going to use that city for a world premiere or something like that, or US nationals or whatever, right? So yeah, I would say it's very much more like the profile of the city, the profile of the venue and the destination and everything around it is what really informs the decision making, not just, hey, I want to go do this event in Vegas, or hey, I want to go and do this event in Paris, or wherever, right? Like it's very much more the sort of business side of it, which is really getting into the details of the venue and the price and the contract and that sort of thing. So yeah. On like a very dreamy level, you could say, I want to host this event, wherever, right? Like I want to do a big event in, I don't know. The thing is, whatever city I say, someone's
battle hardened Des Moines.
Yeah. It's like I want to do an event in Des Moines or whatever, right? Or like I mean, I think people would say like a big dreamy city, right? Like I want to do a big event in Paris, right? Like so you can put Paris up there, right? It's like I want to go to Paris, but like that doesn't really solve your problem, right? So like, cool, you want to go and do a big pro event in Paris. Okay, how are you going to do that? Well, you need to start talking to these venues, and you need to find one that actually feels Parisian. That's the problem with a city like Paris, is like there's a lot of different options to do an event in Paris, but none of them are actually in Paris. They're all out in Charles de Gaulle area, or they're out in Le Bourget or somewhere else in the outskirts, and they don't feel very Parisian, but you're paying the French price. And so you're just like, why the hell am I doing this event here? Like, so yeah, it very much comes down to the venue drives like a very significant, like,
all right. Well, if we're being dreamy and we don't have a venue locked down, we're just thinking about like cool thematic events. I would just like to say, when Icelander returns, okay, whatever set that is, the world premiere should be at McMurdo Station, which is the largest outpost in Antarctica.
Okay. I see.
No.
Okay.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay. Uh-huh.
Nothing. I just really like the thing, and I want an excuse to go live.
We don't know. We're not living that life. We're not cosplaying a fucking movie about shapeshifters. And no,
listen, it's gonna have Shiana in it too. It'll be all on theme.
Oh my Christ. Okay, but only if Tommy Fresh gets comped a ticket, because The Thing is his favorite movie.
Because he's a man of culture.
He is a man of culture. Tommy is a man of culture.
Mhm.
This is what I deal with on a weekly basis, by the way, Trevor. This is my life.
It's all good. I love Shiana. Shiana's great. I hope we get to find out more of her story at some point. But
wink, 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 nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? But I know. But
I have no idea. I think she's great. So
yeah, that was the when Alex Watkins was on.
Yeah.
One of his things was, listen, I don't want to know anything past like the purview of what I need to know to operate these learn to play events and and do these conventions, because I don't want to say anything, telling tales out of class. Like I don't want to get caught up doing that shit, because it's also, as a fan, and I can only assume that you are a fan of Flesh and Blood, and otherwise it's probably hard to work with the product otherwise. I mean, you're a fan of the state of Michigan, right, Darick?
Yeah, I am.
You love it. Yeah,
I've got an Aurora deck in here. I don't have any time to play with it, but I built it. I built an Aurora deck. I mean, it's all right here. It's
hard to find sleeves.
Yeah, what's so sad is I've got everything all blinged out except this is just a regular freaking Aurora, and I've got all these cold foils of everything else, all great. And then here I am. I just can't even open a freaking Aurora Marvel, but I've got all these great cold foils. I mean, literally, I need Hemel to help me get some to help me get some Command and Conquers, because I literally. I'm using 3 these are Arcane Rising first edition. I don't even have any unlimiteds because I sold all those. These are first ed ones, but I'd rather play with the cold foil ones. So I don't know. I just enjoy pimping this stuff out. I've got Pink Strip, E-Strikes, and
nice.
Might as well.
So, but I haven't opened any extended art foil Gone in a Flash. So
Gone in Flashes.
Some regulars, but look, I love this hero. I love this deck. This is I actually haven't updated it since Leon, so this is still the I think this was Bartosz's list from Leon.
Bartosz was a Flicker Wisp deck, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
He was the first Flicker Wisp combo deck. Yep.
Yes, okay. That's right. I think should be in here. Yes, Flicker Wisp. Yes.
Yep. He was the first one that was running the combo with Arc Lightning.
Yeah.
In the build because it just makes channel that much better.
Yep.
But
so, I'm sure that the metagame has moved since then, but
not really.
Okay. Yeah.
Nope, still good.
Okay.
You can still play exactly that, and it's all good.
But I'll eventually fix this Aurora. So,
this is my wife is bringing me tea with rum in it because I'm way too sober at the moment.
Yep.
And then also this is just Pfeffernuss, if you've never had Pfeffernuss, which is thank you. And then ginger snaps, so that if you're not familiar with Pfeffernuss, you should be, because it is German for pepper nuts. Yeah. So I'm gonna eat these nuts, but they're basically like black pepper cardamom ginger cookies.
Oh wow.
And they are perfect with rummed up tea.
So you've got ginger cookies and ginger snaps, and so what you need is a good ginger ale, like Verner's, made in the fine city of Detroit.
You fucking ass. Why does everything that you say have to be a fucking advertisement for the city of Detroit?
I don't know why. Not at all.
Shitbird.
Look, man.
Thank you, Holly. Appreciate it.
Those are not.
I commit to the bit.
You do commit to the bit, and I am proud of you for committing to the bit. The bit right now is that we actually do want this event to happen in Detroit at some point in time, because that gives me a chance to come see Sophie and Monroe and Stark and your family as well, who I love dearly. But so I just got my delivery of stuff that's going to make me able to talk for the rest of the next 3 hours or whatever.
Oh my God. At some point, what's going to happen is I'm going to have my kids probably barge in here and an hour or so, and they'll be like, "Daddy, it's shower time. It's shower time." It's like, oh gosh, all right, and then that'll be the end of it, or whatever. Whenever the kids come in, But
the kids' decision making is our decision making at this point.
Pretty much.
That tracks, actually.
Pretty much.
Well, I get it.
The ginger all sounds good. I mean, I just love the sort of inflammatory you get kind of at like the back of your throat when you have, some really strong, ginger tea or ginger snack.
Yeah.
So
Pfeffernusse are just so good. They're just these tiny little cookies, and they're just delicious. It's just perfection. I'm about to win a fantasy football league, by the way, without having a starting quarterback.
That's impressive.
So,
I mean, starting quarterbacks are overrated. So
we have killed 3 of them this year. So, Dak died, and that ended that. And then the market was picked over, so I had Danny Dimes, and then he got benched. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's one starting quarterback that is not claimed by any team right now. Okay, Jameis Winston, step on up. And then his ass got benched. And I'm like,
couldn't you go out and get like Michael Penix at this point? I mean,
no, because it is a rookie draft keeper league. And so Michael Penix is on a team.
Okay, so people took like Penix and Bo Nix and
Will Levis. Wow. And they're all on teams.
Yeah, because then they can keep them. Yeah, I understand.
Correct, for cheap.
Yes, got it.
And cost control players in this league, it's just like the NFL in that regard, where it is the best asset you can have by far.
For sure.
So I was seeing a highlight recently of Jameis Winston from the Rose Bowl where he does like this horrible like tumble and then he fumbles it back and the Ducks pick it up and they go the distance with the fumble 6.
Yeah.
Good old
But so the Atlanta Falcons defense and Jonathan Taylor are going to win me this week, and then I have to see if there's any quarterback out there that is left standing. I might have to pick up fucking who's the kid that's the backup for the Kenny Pickett and see if he's out there.
Yes. Yeah.
But
wait, is he still is he in Pittsburgh still or where is
No, he's in the Eagles. He's the backup to Hurts. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
This is still not a football podcast, but again, whatever.
That's fine.
Speaking of fumbles, though, I know we're not a football podcast, but I just wanted to say my Detroit Lions had the coolest fake fumble play.
Got Ben Johnson, idiots.
I'll have to look.
I don't know if
one.
If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it because like watching it live is actually a thing of beauty. They sell it incredibly well. I think Jahmyr Gibbs in particular has a long career in the WWE after this because he can sell for sure. But yes, they run a fake fumble play where they fake a fumble handoff between Goff and Jahmyr, and then it's actually play action.
Because Jameer's going to the ground,
full bites on it.
Goff is stumbling. Jameer's going to the ground, and Goff just stands straight up, pulls the ball up, and just hits Laporta for a touchdown. It's just like, Ben Johnson's in his fucking bag, man. Like he's just now he's styling on people for fun.
Yep.
It's against the Bears, so it kind of doesn't count. But I guess there's a couple of things I just wanted to touch on before we hit questions because we do have questions.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there's a long list of things here.
Oh, this ain't shit.
Yeah.
You should have seen what we didn't get to ask Brian, or the Josh Scott list at one point in time went down to the letter X.
Wow.
So that was, I had to go back and look, but it was a while ago, and we were just like, oh shit, we're going to be doing this for a while. But I get this question a lot. Nobody really brought it up too much in like the listener questions, but local play is kind of one of those mysteries to a lot of people in that you're talking about a company who is rooted in New Zealand. And with with a robust, I would call it the best pro play scene on the planet currently. I don't think that there's any disagreement really there, like from people that aren't just completely, fanboys of one thing and one thing only. But at this point in time, like here it's become kind of a mystery too, because we have several local game stores. All of them do pretty well. And our player base is decent size. We get a lot of things from different states, a lot of players from different states coming in. So what does your team or whoever is doing this really look at when it comes to getting like your tier would be basically tier 2 events going to different stores? I can tell you the nightmare story of the last ProQuest I played in, which was at a store that had never run anything above an armory, had 6 local players, I think is what the guy said, and they get a draft ProQuest, and they didn't know how to run their event at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so the question comes to my mind, like how?
Yeah.
Like just how?
Yep. So there's a few things I'll say here. First, I need to give a disclaimer, and then I'll talk. This is going to be a subject that I'll be able to talk in more broad strokes on rather than in the
Broad is good.
So just laying the sort of groundwork here. So myself and my team, we take care of pretty much everything that happens outside of the local game store. So on Premier Play and conventions, we are literally overseeing kind of all the activity that doesn't happen in the LGS. So Battle Hardens and above, right? So Battle Hardens, Callings, Pro Tour Worlds, convention programs, presents, everything, right? Now, we have a lot of programs that feed into our circuit. So we're obviously talking to a lot of other members in the studio, but there is a entire team of experienced and a lot of people that actually predate my time at the studio doing in-store organized play. So there's a team of account managers, and they're based all around the world. We have a team that's in New Zealand that kind of covers New Zealand and North America, South America. We have a person that's down in Brazil. We've got a team in Mexico. We've got teams in Europe. We've got people on the ground in Japan. So they've got people kind of everywhere doing all of kind of like the store and distributor like level communications. Look, there's a few things here. I think you will start to see like Gem Pack is just like the first sort of visible sort of like change for next year as far as in-store play goes, right? Like,
and ultra cool. Yeah.
But it's like really unlocking something to allow stores to kind of have a little bit more autonomy and freedom to do what's best for their communities and to do things at like a cadence that is appropriate for their community. So like, yes, while armories and armory kits were kind of this once a week thing or whatever, like if a store is thriving and they want to run on demand additional events like during the week, like gem packs are not restricted to just the armory event as far as pricing goes. So like, if a store wants to do multiple events a week, while they can only sanction one armory, they can organize multiple events. So like the thing is, we're trying to unlock a bit of this so that stores can do what they need to do to be successful. I always kind of felt like the armory kit was such like a limiter in terms of, if you're in a scene where you've got a player base that wants to come out and play CC on Wednesdays and wants to come back and draft on Friday for Flesh and Blood, and then they want to maybe hang out on the weekend on Sunday for Blitz or whatever, like we should be unlocking those opportunities for stores that really want to crush it and make their store all about Flesh and Blood, right? Like we shouldn't be holding these stores back. And I think this is just the first sort of thing over the course of, I think this is probably going to take a full year before this really like all the changes kind of propagate. But these stores that really are crushing it, that want to make Flesh and Blood a focus, we are going to be doing what we can to unlock the resources for them to be successful. So, I think one of the other challenges, like you were saying with like RTN, they got like a draft RTN or a draft ProQuest or whatever. Like there's a few things here where like, yeah, they're trying to do a bit of balancing where, some areas, maybe no one was selecting a particular, format, and they're trying to get some representation. I think that's part of the calculus, but we're also changing the way that the living legend points thing works, where it's no longer going to matter like what percentage of the events are CC or draft in terms of living legend. Like that was one sort of like constraint, whereas like we only wanted to give out so many points in a season, and if everyone ran CC, then we'd give out too many living legend points because they would all be based on this sort of number. Right? But now we're saying, okay, you know what? For this fixed block of time, we're going to award this many points. However many pro quests there are, we're going to divide that, these points based on that many CC pro quests, and we're going to, round it one way or the other, and that's how many points we're going to give out, right? And so, it was kind of like this weird sort of indirect thing where it's like we were trying to solve for living legend, so we could only give out so many points, so we'd only want to have a certain ratio, and this sort of thing. And so then you would end up with like the store wanting to do a draft event. And I'll be the first to say, like, look, like organizing a draft in a shop, if you don't do drafts regularly in your store, is like freaking hard, and you don't know what the heck gem is going to spit out until you go and pair that first round, and you're like, oh crap, the way that my tables are organized, I all of a sudden need to move 2 tables together because I only had play tables with 6 or 4 people, and now all of a sudden I need to have a pod of 7 and a pod of 8 and another pod of 6, and you're just like, and it's very like hard as a shop if you want to be like, especially if you want to like do a good job and you want to prepare for this, but you don't know until all the people walk in the door how many people you're going to have, and it's only at that final moment where you go and hit generate my pods, and then you and your judge, you the shopkeeper and the judge are like scrambling to rearrange tables. Meanwhile, you've got 25 people in your store, and you're just trying to figure this out. And so like I empathize with that. Like, I've been there, like having to organize these kinds of things, and like that's kind of stressful. So
it is.
So like, look, I get it. Like it makes total sense, and like we've got to do better to try and support some of these shops, and look, I think we're going to be doing a lot of things to really allow shops to achieve their full potential. I think that's a big part of what you will see next year. Stores that want to really crush it are going to have opportunities to become the best Flesh and Blood store in their city, in their state, in their country. Like, we are going to create opportunities where stores that want to do that can. There will still be ways to get onboarded and be a part of Flesh and Blood, but you will definitely see us show greater appreciation, respect, and admiration for the stores that are crushing it. 100%. That is going to be part of the mantra for next year. So I don't really have any details to share on that. It's not really my team or my place to say. I do have a little bit of influence over some of the programs and things that we do, but just from like an ethos, like we will be leaning into these stores that are crushing it. I think it's one of the most demoralizing things if you are an LGS that is killing it week in, week out, and then ProQuest event allocation comes out and you don't get a ProQuest, and you're just like, WTF, right? And it's because we're trying to spread the love and these sorts of things, and like that's like as a publisher, we're like totally sending the wrong signal to you, because then you're kind of like questioning, well, if I'm getting skipped over, then am I really making the best choices for myself and my business and this sort of thing? Like, why did I do all this effort in order for the new store down the road to get this opportunity or whatever? So I think you're going to start to see a bit of a shift here. There'll still be a lot of great ways for shops to get involved, for a lot of new stores to get involved, but I think you're going to see a lot more appreciation for stores that have been crushing it. So I don't even think that was the answer you were looking for, but
no, it was.
That's what I'll tell you. So
yeah, because it really, it does answer a lot of the questions, because we've been, obviously the game is young. We talk about that all the time. It's not, the game is young. It's still trying to find its footing, and it takes time, but Flesh and Blood has grown in many ways faster than anything we've really ever seen. And in a sustainable way. Like, we've seen flash in the pans, don't get me wrong, force of will exists, but what we haven't seen is something that is taking a sustainable model and advancing it in such a way like that makes sense over time this quickly. Because, I mean, again, we can name, I can continue to name these Marvel Versus. You want to talk about an unsustainable model? There's one.
Sure.
There, and again, a lot of games came out and said, we're giving away $2 million, this season, with zero planning.
I mean, they were also constrained by the IP, right? And many other things.
Right.
And
yes.
And a owner at Upper Deck that was kind of crazy, but
kind of is not the right word I would use. But yes, and so it does make sense. It also makes sense that the thought process of, we need to spread these things out so that shops can understand that, we're still going to support you in whatever way we can, but also feels like at times that starts to stagnate out a little bit, and they kind of just click the button and it goes out to the same places at times. It seems like the focus was scattershot. So what I'm hearing it answers the question in as much that's a focus. That's not scattershot anymore. That is we are going to reward the stores that are trying to make Flesh and Blood happen at a grassroots level, because that's how the best growth happens at a larger level too.
Look,
and that makes sense.
If you are an LGS and you tell us you want to put Flesh and Blood on your back and like fucking go to war with us, like, and take on the world with Flesh and Blood, like, we should be doing whatever we can to support you in your cause of helping us, achieve our mission, right? So like, I think you're going to see a little bit of just some more appreciation for those stores that have really taken a chance on us, and just unlocking the kinds of resources that we need to help those folks be successful. So no, it's
don't talk yourself into a hole. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm energized with that. And there's some things that we're gonna have to do in different markets around the world to approach this. There isn't, while we are like a global game, it's not necessarily a one size fits all model. So we've got to do the right things to localize in the right markets. But yeah.
So Darick, for the past hour and 22 minutes, basically, we've been on my shit. So what do you want to add? What do you want to talk about, buddy?
Well, I mean, he answered one of the big questions I had, which was really just about the order of operations for the logistics, right? Because I do think that a lot of people, well, first of all, I mean, we know just factually because we've been to those events and we've seen the people in the chairs. A lot of people have enjoyed Flesh and Blood events, right? It used to be that it was, nothing but memes and naysayers and negative Nancy's on social media or whatever that would say like, it's a scam, it's a fad, is it even a real game? Do people even play this? And we go from that to, 1,000-person events pretty routinely, and
booking flights to Prague. Yeah.
But even just more so, like having larger events at, like marquee Star City events where we're, as we said earlier, right, like stealing seats from other areas. And so while I've always believed in the game because just mechanically it's very good, I do think that with all of the growth and all of the support for these large events, that doesn't happen without a lot of planning. So I do also want to just thank Trevor while he's here. But I was just curious about, when you were approaching it, right? Like I said, do you pre-vet or not? Because I do think that, when you show up It's like hosting a party, right? Like when you show up, you have a good time and you leave, but you don't really think about how much goes into hosting a good party until it's your turn to do the hosting, right? And then you spend, 3 days prior cleaning, and then you're, cooking, and you're organizing stuff for people to do and be entertained. And it's like that on a massive scale, right? There's so much involved that, there's the costs involved, and like I said, all of the logistics involved for just running event. I didn't even mention stuff like organizing judges, for example, or all of those other things that go into making a great event. And Flesh and Blood is pretty routinely knocking it out of the park, both in terms of quality venue spots. So again, like the one in Chicago, great venue, was connected to several hotels. There was a skywalk available, lots of great food options around. That just, again, it's one of those things where like you go and you enjoy it and you're like, man, I had a good time, but you don't think about that. Like, yeah, somebody had to make those choices to make sure that that was the experience, and not like, that you take a flight to somewhere and then you take like a 40-minute Uber to a suburb or something, and then you're running out of an old antiques hall or something, right? Like that all matters. And it does help that Trevor is here in the States, but I also, and again, I said it before, but again, I want to thank Trevor for all of his work, but also just in general, I've always tried to cut LSS, like the mothership, some slack, because, they are on the other side of the world on an island, right? And the fact that they have made this global game, I think, speaks volumes to their dedication, because that means that they are up at all odd hours and they're taking in the feedback, and they are, having good conversations, because not to say that not all feedback is helpful, but some feedback is more helpful than others. And I do think that LSS has found a great way to filter it, both from a game design perspective to a product perspective. I mean, you can even just go back on this show, back 2 years, stuff that we've talked about on the show has come to fruition, where we were saying like, hey, it would be really cool if they, did something to help onboard new players. And then we got new blitz boxes and all draftable sets and armory decks, right? Like they do a good job of listening. So I don't have a lot for Trevor, just because, outside of the logistics side, it's a testament to him, but all of the premier events, all of the marquee events are great lately. And I'll also say this, the ones that I can make it to, because my travels this year have been absolutely awful. But that is a me problem. That is not a Trevor or
you had no real problems going to Chicago.
I lost my power steering driving in Chicago.
5 minutes.
Listen, I'm just saying, I'm hoping that being the only problem I had is a sign that 2025 is going to go off without a hitch, because everything that I endured traveling in 2024 was an absolute nightmare. So
yes, it was.
But yeah, I just, I wanted to thank Trevor, obviously thank LSS, because the events have been fantastic. I also, just like on a personal note, and I know that in our listener question, Ejur said, like, not really a listener question, he just wanted to do some thinking as well. But I did also want to say that I really love that for the larger events, that there is an effort to be made for the greater game community at whole. So I mean, like the cosplay events, I adore the Artist Alley stuff, where we have Ejur and all of the others show up.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to start listing them, but then I stopped because I was like, I'm going to end up forgetting somebody, and then I'm going to feel bad, because they're all great. You can walk down any Artist Alley at an LSS event, and they're all so nice, so approachable. You can tell that they're genuinely happy to be there, which is not always the case if you've been to any Artist Alley at a convention. Again, talking about like listening to feedback, right? In years past, if we had Trevor on, I would have said, like, I would love to see you at Gen Con, but turns out I can't say that anymore, because they're at Gen Con and they're at all these other events, right? Because they listen to feedback. So the only things I can say is, I'd love to see, Detroit get an event, just because I'm selfish. I'd love to see you at more events. I say that to everybody who works for LSS, just because I know you guys are always so swamped at events, but it's always nice to see folks. Love to get in the booth more, that sort of thing. yeah, it's been great.
What
Genuinely.
Yeah, what Trevor might not understand is that Flesh and Pod does not make predictions. We make spoilers, because basically everything we said it'd be really cool if has happened at this point. Like I think we're X and O at this point.
Actually, Greg, I know you're listening to this. If you get bored over the holidays, I dare you. This is not a requirement. This is just an ask or a dare. Go back through the annals and just make a supercut of all the times that on this show we said it'd be great if, and then just link it to like the announcement or the showing of LSS, like announcing Armory decks, or that they'll be at Gen Con or whatever. Like I would genuinely team sealed. Yeah, exactly. I would be kind of curious how many times, because it's a lot, that we have said it'd be awesome if, and then it happened, which again is just a testament to their ability to listen to, to player feedback.
I got a message from, this was a funny one. We got a message. We recorded a show. It was after I'd seen 10 Foot Tall and Bulletproof. I hadn't seen it yet. Sorry. It was before I had gone to Tampa. And I had somebody to ask the questions like, what would you like to see more of? I'm like, I'd like to see like more modifying intellect. So maybe like you get an attack that like hits really hard or whatever, but you lose an intellect for it or something like that. I think that'd be a really cool thing. And the day after, I get a message from Josh basically saying, did somebody tip you off about a card? I'm like, no. He's like, okay. And the fuck? And then in Tampa, somebody opened 10 Foot Tall and Bulletproof. He goes, what the so I hear from like 20 seats away, what the fuck, this blocks 10? I'm like, what? And like, yeah, it's a 3 for 10 and blocks 10. If you attack or block with it, your intellect gets reduced by 2. And I'm like, really?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. And so stuff like that. So Greg, do the supercut if you wouldn't mind. I mean, obviously you don't have time with children and things like that either, but if you find time, but let's hop into questions if you don't mind, Trevor. People want to know
one thing to, Charmers, things there, you like, despite everything that we do in the planning and preparation and everything, like you also don't get this far without a few good things falling your way, or, some good fortune and that sort of thing. Like, for example, like the weather is one of those things that you can just like never really, like you can mitigate against it as best as you can. And fortunately, we've been quite lucky so far. But like the reality is, like, there is going to come a time where the weather doesn't play nice with us somewhere. And I'm sure people will be like, why did you pick this city in this time of the year or whatever, right? Like, and the thing is, like, we'll do our best, like, whenever we approach that sort of situation, if we ever have to, come up with any kind of mitigation plan or that sort of thing. But look, we've been very fortunate with that. Everything was, 18 callings and above this past year, 50, battle hardens overall and that sort of thing. And everything that was planned was executed, delivered, 46 national championships, all planned, executed, delivered. So, like, look, we've got a very clean record per se at the moment, but you don't get, that way without, also the ball kind of bouncing your way, let's say, or just good fortune, good weather, that sort of thing. But appreciate all the praise and everything. These are just all like the steps along the way that we take to be successful, right? Like it's not just like one thing or whatever, right? It's just like getting to do this every day and to take the right steps, to plan the right things, to make the right calls, to talk to your teammates, to to do this budget, to arrange this thing. That it's all the little things that add up to a successful event and a successful experience for people. And to be honest, like this past year, I feel like there was a lot of talent that like basically got vacuumed out, like during the pandemic. Like everyone in the events industry basically got displaced. And I feel like in for the folks that were kind of doing this before me in 2021, 2022, there was a lot of like really ramping back up, getting back into the groove of doing these events. Even for me in 2023, like putting the team together, just getting enough runway to like get some of these events booked and to, get some of our procedures and practices in place and that sort of thing. And then, in 2024, having a little bit better visibility, getting the word out a little bit further in advance, putting a little bit more polish on the events, doing some of those other special functions to the events and this sort of thing, getting the budgets and everything in place. And so for me, like, I feel like we've kind of gotten to a point now where we are now maybe back to that sort of, 2019 pre-pandemic sort of like level of like where I was organizing events at that point. Like, I feel like we've kind of gotten back to that mark now, but it's not like we're going to stop there, right? Like, I hope that, now in 2025 and heading into 2026, like this is the first time where I actually get to not just be looking at next year, but actually be getting to look at the year after that and thinking about the journey that we get to take people on over the course of the next couple years and that sort of thing. And the amount of things that we can do for our guests, for our players, for our attendees, for, this sort of thing, like the amount of things we can do over a longer time horizon is pretty cool. So I hope that, over the course of the next, say, 6 to 24 months, you start to see, even more cool things that we do that, I think we've got the core of what the event is in terms of tournaments and some packages and how the tournaments run and everything like that is generally, I think, like a pretty good experience, right? Like in terms of not having to wait too long, getting your pairings, getting to play Flesh and Blood, making that more of a frictionless experience. I hope we can do more in that regard, but I feel like we're delivering on that. But I think moving forward, we need to really look at how can we actually enhance the event that surrounds the tournament. Osaka, I think, is a great example of an event where there are so many people that bought a souvenir package that maybe didn't even play a single game of Flesh and Blood over the course of 3 or 4 days, right? Like once you wrap your head around that we had fans of our game that maybe didn't even play an ounce of Flesh and Blood over the whole weekend, but they traveled to Osaka, they paid 70,000 yen, they bought this package, and they hung out with their friends. Maybe they shopped with vendors, maybe they shopped with the artists, and they got to just be a part of the environment. We need to do more to also appreciate those folks, right? Or people who are players, but maybe don't want to, play 10 hours every day, but want to just enjoy the overall experience of being surrounded by 1,000 of your, friends and that sort of thing. So we need to do more to enhance that, part of the event design. And I think, over time, you'll see us kind of create other kinds of functions and ways that you can, just enjoy being surrounded by 1,000 of people that you share a common interest with. So
Well put.
Yeah.
Let's start our listener questions with Ejur. So this is from Iswardi Therianto,
Awesome.
who loves to linger in our Discord and talk shit about us.
Love it.
For Trevor, no question. Just want to commend his work managing all the wonderful events. Happy holidays, my friend. So that's from Ejur to you.
I love you too, man. Iswardi, love your artwork. It's always a pleasure seeing you and your wife at the events. And we'll see you soon in the new year. So always a pleasure when Iswardi can make it out to a show. So
I say this all the time. Iswardi's art is some of the best you'll ever see, and it's only eclipsed by the person that Iswardi is, because I love that guy. He's the best.
All I wish is I could have been a part of the studio when Shock Charmers was made. Man, that card needed extended art treatment.
The full art of it is so good.
It is such
I
a
know.
gorgeous card, and I've got the playmat of it where it's like the full uncropped one that
Mhm.
you did in Baltimore. Gorgeous piece of artwork. I still want to know
Yep.
who that chick is on the playmat, but yeah,
Maybe someday.
yeah.
But
So
next thing is from El Dorte. He's one of our listeners in Switzerland. Question for Trevor: how do locations get chosen for events? We've kind of gone there already. Do tournament organizers have to reach out to apply for a chance to hold an event? Asking for a friend because a Battle Hardened was not enough to get my favorite podcaster to come to Switzerland. Calling Lucerne when he's talking shit about us again because he keeps trying to get us in Switzerland.
That's totally fair. So look, let me help address these questions. So yes, there is a way that you can apply to host a Battle Hardened. So look, drop us an email to premiere@fabtcg.com. My colleague Tom will happily talk to any shop that is keen to organize an event in their region. We have a form that then we will send them a link to that allows us to gather some more details, and then we go from there. The time horizon for that sort of thing usually takes about 6 months to a year from the moment you first establish contact with us. So we do still have maybe a few opportunities for Battle Hardens in the second half of 2025. Otherwise, we're probably looking more into into 2026. But look, we are keen to chat with anyone that has the initiative and drive to bring a Battle Hardened to their community. So definitely reach out. When it comes to events of calling and above nature, like, look, we actually have a few calling tournament organizers that came, grassroots from being a Battle Hardened, tournament organizer. So, like, the best thing you could do is start with the Battle Hardened, and then we go from there. So, yeah, it's all the steps to success. As far as doing something in Switzerland, personally, I've never been to Switzerland, so that's already a good criteria because I would love to head over there, maybe to Geneva or looks like Lucerne at some point. So yeah, this is the one thing that's unfortunate is, there are so many great places around the world to visit every year, and there's only so many events that we get to do. And next year we're going to do the most events we've ever done, and there's still going to be a lot of people that are, maybe disappointed that there wasn't an event in their area, right? So yeah, don't lose hope. Of course, yeah, we only have so many, Pro Tours, World Championship callings that we can do. Obviously, Battle Hardens help us fill a lot of the gaps. National championships around the world allow us to be present in many countries around the world. So, yeah, look, I think for Switzerland, it's just a question of when, not if. But yeah, we'll see.
There you go. Next one's from Fallen. Question for Trevor: what was his favorite event to plan, and which event does he think was the best one ever?
Well, let's see. Planning for calling Phuket was a ton of fun. Like, this is something that we really wanted to do, like this holiday event concept. So getting to plan this idea where you could buy a package, and the package would include your lunch every day, and if you stayed at the hotel, your reservation would have breakfast included, and it was all kind of like this sort of like stay and play experience in Phuket. And I think if you have any viewers that are from Southeast Asia and they went to Phuket, I know that Phuket left a lasting impression on people, and I loathe for the day that we get to do another kind of holiday, event like that. So for me, like, from a conceptual standpoint, doing some of these really fun bespoke events like Phuket, super fun to plan. In terms of the best event ever, I mean, I think it's very hard to say anything other than Osaka at this point, just for Flesh and Blood. Like, it's clearly like the biggest highlight of anything that we have done. I think you could also give maybe a little nod to the Celebrational. That was a very unique and special event. That was also a ton of fun to plan that event in Queenstown, just because it was so different than any other event. There was a lot of activities that we arranged for people that were outside the confines of just playing Flesh and Blood every day, but we were, taking people to the spa, or taking people on jet skis, or going for a dinner on an island, and these kinds of things. So that stuff, super fun to be a part of, super fun to plan. But yeah, I mean, I think I'd be remiss to say anything other than Osaka was like our shining achievement to date at this point. So yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Darick, do you have anything to add to that? Outside of, we're both sad that we didn't go to Osaka.
Look, I would have been there if it weren't for the Italian super flu.
It killed you.
It really did.
Yeah.
And Stark was rubbing it in today. I took my oldest son Christmas shopping for his mom because he hadn't got her any gifts yet. So when we were out today, we were listening to some music in the car, and Fever 333 was on the radio. And I said, this was the band that I was going to go see on Halloween if I didn't go to Japan, because they were doing a Halloween show in Detroit. And he was like, yeah, but you didn't go to Japan. And I was like, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
so I don't know if you heard that story or not, Trevor, but I had everything booked. I was supposed to be there, but I got so deathly ill on my family trip to Italy like the week prior. And I didn't know for sure if I was going to be well enough to go. It turns out by the time that I would have been traveling, I probably wouldn't have been. But I ultimately, it was like, I don't like to travel when I'm sick anyway, because I don't want to get other people sick. I think that's just a really rude and insensitive thing to do. But it's like doubling down when you're going to an event that's just going to be filled with like, hundreds of your friends. Like the last thing I want to do is be the guy that got all my friends sick too, at like what's supposed to be their big thing. So I canceled, which is a big bummer.
Understood. Yeah, sorry you weren't there to join us in Osaka. The good news is that, Japan is a very, very important place where Flesh and Blood is played every day, and we will definitely be back there with several big events over the years. We've got a couple callings planned for next year, and it won't be long before another pro tour is in Japan again. So there will definitely be opportunities for you to make your way back to Japan. It's a beautiful place. So yeah.
Moving on, next one's from Vintox, whose name is Trevor Baker. That's the other Trevor.
Yes.
By the way.
Oh wow. Yes. Yes. I've heard of this person that has the same name.
Fake Trevor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was actually trying to bribe me to come onto this show, but I told him no, because I'm not fucking doing Between Two Trevors. Like, that shit's not happening.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he has a question here for Trevor. How hard is it to balance the difference in geographical scale between North American countries and countries in other regions? For example, there are states the size of European countries, very true, but on paper it looks biased if the US gets 5 callings and France, for example, gets 1. And alternatively, if every country just got 1, then European countries could drive to neighboring countries to compete, but half the US would struggle to get to 1.
Great. This is a great question. So obviously there's one part to this that like we can't really change, which is like the national championship program, right? Like the reality is that for nationals, like in Europe, there are a ton of nationals every national championship season, right? Like I think they have probably close to 40% of all the nationals we run around the world are in Europe, right? And that is just geography, history, whatever. Now, of course, United States is the largest single market, has the greatest economy of scale, and has the single largest national championship, right? And this is like reflected in the prize payout, right? Like the U.S. Nationals has the largest national championship prize payout. It's an invite-only event. We qualify like around 600 plus people a year. We have about 500 people play in the nationals, and we give out 50K, right? Like, so it is a big deal to play in the U.S. National Championship. And around Europe, we have a lot of, national championships that can be anywhere from as low as 24 people all the way up to like 100 and, 28 people or something like that, or 130 people. So look, nationals is kind of what it is. As far as callings go and other sorts of things, when we talk about like this kind of thing, we definitely look at things more on a regional level rather than like a country level. So when we think about the regions, I would say, Europe, or I would say Americas, or I would say Asia Pacific, right? And so, yeah, look, like we try, and especially with the World Tour Player of the Year race, we are trying to like create not necessarily exact even sort of thing, but we're trying to keep things roughly in the ballpark. So, next year we'll have 22 callings overall. And I think across all of the Americas, there is 8. So it's slightly more than, 1/3 by like 1. But then, Europe has like 6. And then APAC actually has the most, but it's got the trickiest geography, right? Because you've got Japan that needs a few, you've got, Southeast Asia that needs some, and then you have Oceania that needs some. So they actually get like that region actually is going to have the most callings next year, which is like people probably wouldn't think that, but that's how it works with geography, right? It's like you've got to try and, it's like binary for some of these things, right? So like either you give a calling to Australia or you don't, and if you don't, that country is just literally like, fucked off, right? So like you got to take care of the market, right? Like so, and that's just how it goes, right? And it's going to be the same thing with South America. We're going to do our first event in Brazil, and it's like for them it's binary. It's either they get a calling or they don't, right? They don't get to go somewhere else. Like that is it, right? I hope over time we get to cultivate a community in Brazil that is excited to, go to other callings in the Americas, or, at some point there will be a calling in Chile, or there will be a calling in Mexico or Costa Rica or wherever. And hopefully as we develop this market, the Brazilians will go to Chile, the Chileans will come to Brazil, and they'll all go up to, Costa Rica or whatever, right? Like, so hopefully over time, these things will cultivate. And then, yeah, I mean, in Europe's such an interesting one, just because it's so easy to kind of get around Europe. People kind of forget that like you can pretty much fly anywhere in Europe in like less than 3 hours. Compared to the United States, where it can take 5 to 6 hours to get from one coast to the other. So I think when I say that like Europe gets like 6 callings a year, whether or not your event is in France or in Spain or is in Italy or somewhere else, like the fact that maybe it's not in your country, let's say, but the fact that you can get on a train or get on a plane and be there in 90 minutes, I think that, it's different, right? Like it's not like
much different.
it's a different thing, right? So look, we're just trying to create opportunities for people to engage with Flesh and Blood. We're trying to get it, fair-ish as possible, but at the end of the day, these things also have to make business sense, right? Like we're obviously looking at where the player pockets, where the communities, what are the dollars and cents of the venue, that sort of thing. Some markets, help subsidize other markets in this sort of thing. Like it's a very complicated puzzle, but we just try and do the best to create opportunities for people to play the game. That's the beautiful thing about it is that I get to be a global citizen, and I get to put on a global events program for people, and that's exciting. So yeah,
good job if you can get it.
Yeah.
Next question is from Blaze Storm, value member of the Patreon. For Trevor, are all invites sent out for RTN season? Was praying my LGS might get one this round. Also, are there any plans to diversify the OP events, like a new type of tier 3 or 4 event with its own qualifying season, or maybe more skirmish type of seasons? The last question is the most important one attached to this one, which is, what's your favorite meal you've had while attending an event?
Okay, so there's a lot here to unpack. So
Start with food.
No, I should end with that. Otherwise, we'll never actually get to the important things here. Because I'll go on a 15-minute tangent if we talk about food. So first thing, maybe just in order of difficulty. So skirmish, yes, next year. I think we are returning to 3 skirmish seasons over the course of the year. So basically, you'll get one for each product cycle, product release, that sort of thing, or each kind of key product release. So yes, there will be more skirmish seasons in the sense that we'll have 3 instead of 2. The A new type of tier 3, 4 event or other diversity. So, look, in the short term, no, there's going to be no changes in terms of, calling Pro Tour, World Championship, that sort of thing. Like, we don't have any plans at the moment to create like a new thing. That doesn't mean that there won't come a time where another event type makes sense. I just think that based on our size, our scale, the prize pool, the markets that we're serving, these kinds of things, I think the model that we have, mostly does a pretty decent job of serving the current, needs of the business. But yeah, 2, 3 years, 4 years from now, could there be, another event type? Yeah, possibly. But yeah, and as far as the RTN sort of thing, so I believe everything with RTN season is all done and dusted and sorted at this point. The best thing that your LGS can do is reach out to your account manager and just say, "Hey, is there any opportunities?" But I believe that's all long done and dusted at this point. So,
Did we lose him?
so.
No.
Oh,
Did we lose me?
I think maybe Logan's lagging a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like Logan is.
Yeah, Logan.
No, I'm good now.
He froze. He said, "Did we lose him?" And then he froze. But
For
you
the
were
first
fine the
time
whole
ever.
time, Trevor.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, it was my shit that fucked up.
Okay.
Because it's never my shit that fucks up. So
Yeah.
I'm going to blame the other 3 people in this house right now that are probably streaming at 1080p or 4K, depending. And my wife is probably streaming 2 things because I mounted a 55-inch television above her desk.
Yeah.
And then there's also a television right next to her. And I have seen her streaming on her computer, on her computer monitors, streaming on the television above, and streaming on the television next to her simultaneously.
That's crazy.
I don't get it. I don't understand how any of that works, but she is actually paying attention to all of them somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. So the last part of that question was the food. So I answered the rest of it. Now it's about food. This is very hard. So my favorite meal I've had while attending an event. Oh my gosh. This is that's a hard one. Gosh, I don't even know where to start because I can appreciate food from all over the world. Trying to think maybe just something in the past year that was like really good. Where did I where did I go that I just felt like need to go back here. This is tough. This is tough.
This is hard.
I'm thinking
you just got back from Chicago, Osaka.
Yeah. So actually, it's this is gonna. I mean, I could take the easy path here. Okay. So coolest meal I've had all year, and it wasn't even necessarily like. I wouldn't even say it was like the best meal that I ate, but just probably the coolest experience was I was in Tokyo a few days before Osaka, and there is a company that that puts out a website called like Pizza Top 50, and they like rank all the top like pizza places around the world, and the top pizza place in Asia is this place in Tokyo called like the Pizza Bar on 38th. It's in the Mandarin Oriental, and it's basically like a pizza omakase, and they only have 8 seats in the whole restaurant. And I was just, I found about it during world premiere in Tokyo, and it was super booked up. We couldn't get a seat. There's only 8 seats, right? So then I'm spending a couple days in Tokyo before Osaka, and I decided to check on my phone. and it's just me. And I check one seat, and it's like, oh my gosh, Sunday evening, they've got a seat at the pizza bar on 38th. I actually better just double check that I'm getting the name of the restaurant correct, but I believe it is Pizza Bar on 38th. Yep. So and so I managed to get a seat here, and I go, and it's within like a greater so there's kind of like a big Italian restaurant that's in this Mandarin Oriental, and they've got this small corner of the restaurant that is the pizza bar, and it's literally 8 seats. There are 4 seats that go this way, 4 seats that go this way, and they've got their wood oven in the corner, and there's 8 people there, and the 8 people represent the 8 slices of each pizza, and you go on this like 11 course pizza tasting menu where it's actually 8 pizzas, but there's like a bunch of other things that there's like a little appetizer and a little dessert, like a little amuse-bouche and some other things. Honestly, some of the best pizza I've ever ate and some of the worst pizza I've ever ate.
That's what happens on tasting menus sometimes. You sometimes get
what
fucked.
happens. There were a couple that just had like the most pungent, funky mushrooms, and I was like, not my cup of tea. But some of the others that were a little bit more savory, or there was one with like some seafood on it that was really good. It was actually, it might be here sitting on my desk. This is, yes, it's literally sitting on my desk. I kept the menu, and I can't believe it. But yeah, pizza omakase menu from there. This was cool, actually. So when you finish the whole like pizza menu thing, they actually give you this as a souvenir, and it has your name and the date that you went there, and they give you this menu. Really,
pistachio affogato.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So that was the dessert. Was the pistachio affogato? Yeah. Yeah.
How would that even work? Because it's pistachio and espresso.
Yep. So it was gelato, ganache, candied biscotti, espresso. Yeah. So they I don't know. I've got photos of the whole thing. I'll share with you sometime. They had a Wagyu pizza that was really good. Yep. There was a prosciutto one that was very good. But yeah, this one that was fungi zeffirano was not great. Did not like that pizza. The buffalo was very good. That was like their margarita. That was super tasty.
Oh, okay.
So anyways, I did a really cool pizza tasting menu in Tokyo. That was a fun experience. I've done a handful of tasting menus over the years, and had fun with those. It's always kind of fun doing those. But you know, it's quite expensive. You can't do them all the time.
Oh yeah.
This one, because the yen was, the yen has been so low. This tasting menu was like, I think only like 120 USD, which is like cheap
for a tasting menu. That's fine.
It's cheap. Yeah. I mean, I think I've spent up to like $500, $600, $700 for a tasting menu before. So because of the yen and because of the fact that it was pizza, I think it was, rather cheap for a tasting menu. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a fun experience. So I would say that. And then also in Barcelona the year before, there's a place called Sartoria, and they also do pizza in Barcelona. And that is probably the best pizza I've ever had, was at Sartoria in Barcelona. So if you ever get back to Barcelona, go to a place called Sartoria. And
I didn't go there in the first place. Charmer will tell you I wasn't there.
Yeah. So,
it's not me who likes to rub it in. It's our good friend, Mr. Cookus, DM Armada.
Okay. Both you fuckers like to rub it in. That's not just a Steven thing.
At Nats this year, which, by the way, that's also where Trevor gave me this cool hat, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I don't have a fucking hat, Trevor.
Logan.
I see it.
I place right time. Yeah.
But to be fair, that one was that was actually Doa's fault. But anyway, when we were at Nats, DM Armada, myself and Logan all roomed together, and so we we had one day, and we didn't even organize it. It just worked out that way. But we were both wearing our shirts from Barcelona. So when we went to breakfast and we were all down at the hotel breakfast, I looked at him and he looked at me, and we were both like, man, wasn't it so great to go to Barcelona? We spent the whole breakfast just talking about how amazing it was.
You motherfucker started in the elevator on the way down. You rebought at breakfast.
Yeah.
And then you rebought again on the walk to the venue.
Look,
y'all are fucking dicks.
Shout out to Sunflower Samurai, our pro team in Spain.
Yeah.
Anytime we can have some jamon iberico, it's a good time. Just love me some Spanish food. Spain will be a great place if I could pick somewhere to retire. Spain would definitely be near the top of my list of places that I would like to retire. Yeah, southern Spain. Yep, definitely.
Sure, but
yeah, gets a little hot, but
maybe.
Yeah.
But we're from the Midwest, where it's either the heat of the sun or the cold of the dark side of the moon. There's really not many in betweens. Okay. Next one's from Greg, our esteemed producer, Darth Prentice. If you aren't familiar with Greg as a handle, Greg's kind of a normal Midwestern name. What 3 cities are on your wish list for future T4 events? Go.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is really hard because...
Well, Detroit, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Okay, this is... You're really asking for some big info, but no, look, like, I don't think it's like a surprise, like, or a secret really, that like we definitely made an attempt to do an event in Paris when we did the event in Barcelona. So, Paris was definitely up there for consideration. It's a very challenging landscape in terms of, venues, the way that pricing is in France, the way that availability is. It's just like, it's not easy doing business in France. So look, like, we'd love to do something in France again in the future. I'd love to do something in Paris. I think that is like clearly at the top of the list for a lot of people. I was very happy we got to do London, coming up this year. London was one that would have been at the top of the list for me before, if we hadn't already announced that we were going to London. So London is up there. I would love to do our friends, our Blue Pitch friends, right, and host something properly in Hong Kong at some point. That is another very challenging market as far as as far as venues go, as far as that landscape goes. It's a very densely populated area, and there's not a lot of venues to work with. And those venues that they do have in Hong Kong, it's very competitive to get access to those venues. There's a pretty big vetting process that you have to go through and a lot of wait lists that you have to clear. So I would love to do that. So I've said Paris, I've said Hong Kong, and another future tier 4 city. Look, there's I don't know if this would be tier 4 or not, but I'll give a North American city a shout out because I think it deserves some love. Is New Orleans. I think there's a lot of people that would love to do an event down in New Orleans.
Yes,
I don't have a lot of experience in that market. I've never actually been to New Orleans. I would love to go sometime. And I think tier 3 or tier 4 doing something in New Orleans would be a ton of fun. So there you go. I've said Paris, Hong Kong, and New Orleans, and I don't think I've spoiled anything. But these are places that would be really cool.
Yeah,
I don't want to dissuade you from New Orleans, but
don't
I will
fucking
say,
dare.
No, listen, I will say, when I was there, the city, like, I had a great time, and the city was great. It was very walkable. It was everything that I would like about a city. However, the weather, being, a coastal thing, can be very abrupt. And so, like, 3 out of my 4 days were phenomenal. But one of those days it was just a thunderstorm, but it was, coming off the coast. So it felt to my Midwestern soul like it was a hurricane. Now, I know it wasn't, but it felt like it. Like it was batten down the hatches kind of weather. So
we get derechos in Iowa. This isn't shit, but I think that so New Orleans, like the hard part would really just be dodging June through August, roughly. Well, through September, really, because otherwise it is nuclear hot.
Right.
And also,
I was there in July.
I was there in August at an outdoor wedding in August.
I walked outside and felt like I was like in a pool.
Yep.
Like it's not just like, oh, you walk outside and you're sweaty. Like I felt wet. Like I just felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Accurate.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's basically swampland down there, right? Like,
yeah.
you're pretty much.
Yeah.
Like right on the.
You're in the Delta. You're down in the you're down where it's super humid. Yeah. There ain't shit there.
I mean, this is.
But God,
the area where they basically say like New Orleans and like southern like Louisiana is going to be like underwater as the ocean levels like rise over the years. Like,
yeah, it will.
Yeah. So, yeah.
The Mississippi Delta, New Orleans, like in southern Louisiana, yeah, that'll all go under.
Yep. So I don't know. I guess
do it before then.
Yeah. Do it before then. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Next one's from Jim Neben for Trevor Battle Hardened Detroit win. Ben.
No.
You're aiming too low, buddy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ben, stop. We don't want a battle hardened.
We want to call it.
We want to show off the amazing city of Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want some fucking pizza, man.
Yeah, and I mean, hasn't like Star City done like a battle hardened there or something already at some point in the last 2 years? I feel like
not a battle hardened. Okay. No, there's an SCG con, but there was no Fab events, if I remember right.
Okay, maybe that was pre us doing some stuff with them.
Yeah, which is listen, it is the oldest founded city west of the Appalachians.
Oh my fucking God.
So it just deserves some respect, okay?
Yeah. No. Look, like Detroit will take its turn at some point. I mean, like that's just it, right? And it's kind of sad to say this, but it's like one of those cities that does tick most of the boxes, but it kind of always becomes the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like one of those that, it's always there, but can we find something that's not Detroit? So look, I mean, its time will come, and sadly, the moment that happens will be the moment that we probably couldn't, fit something else in on that particular weekend, and Detroit was the best option on the table. And that isn't a knock on Detroit. It's just like the reality is like it's one of those cities that has a convention center that generally has pretty good availability most of the year, and it's kind of like always there and always available. And so
it's actually got a few different ones. So I don't know which one like you have pre-vetted. I don't know if you've got like the Renaissance Center or
I don't
what, but they have a few. It's the downtown area after being like renovated, and now that we've got like Ford Field and Comerica Park and Little Caesars Arena like all right next door to each other, has brought a ton of like businesses down there. So it's just really cool. And I'm constantly telling people like it's not the city from RoboCop anymore. So,
but it is.
I mean, it's not though.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you think about it, we've kind of dotted around it quite a bit already, right? Like we've done. We've done Chicago, we've done Minneapolis now, so like,
Canadian Nats in Toronto, the event in Buffalo,
Indianapolis, Buffalo,
which is I was gonna say is just like on the other side of the lake, really.
And there's been stuff even in like Cincinnati before, and stuff. Yeah, so like
I drove down to Cincinnati. Yeah, I drove down there.
Yeah, we've danced around it a bit. So look, it'll come around, especially as we continue to grow and we continue to add more events to the mix. I think it's just kind of a natural fit. And like you've said, it's a Delta hub. There's a lot of flights into there. There's a lot of square footage to work with, and it's very functional, and it's very close to the Canadian border as well. So, It definitely.
And it's home to a lot of casinos. And if there's one thing I know about card game players, it's that they also are degenerate gamblers.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, we all are. But now, question for Darick: would you be offended if Cleveland got a calling before Detroit?
would I be offended? No, I mean, I wouldn't be offended. I would be disheartened, but not like offended. Like at the end of the day, any other city getting one isn't like, I don't think of it as any sort of like, personal judgment on any one location over another, because I do understand it's all logistics, right? And I know Trevor said that a bunch, but like that's the reality. So it could also just be that like maybe it was Detroit's turn, but like the venue fell through, or maybe they really wanted to do it, but it was also on the same weekend that the Lions were playing a home game, and the Tigers had a doubleheader, and they didn't want to compete with all the downtown foot traffic or whatever, right? Like stuff happens. So like I would.
That's the weekend I want to be in Detroit.
Well, no, I mean, listen, it is and it isn't. It just kind of depends, because you got to have like hotel availability and like there's more to it, right? But I would, like I would not be offended. I would just be disheartened, because then I would have to drive to Cleveland. I just don't want to do that.
No. I mean, I think, look, like, to be fair, when we were kind of like picking where we would, host that first calling of the year in the U.S. and when we landed on Memphis, Detroit was definitely like a city in our sort of like scan. It wasn't near the top of the list, partially because we would have just been in Chicago. So like for us to kind of go back to back in that sort of northern, sort of northern pocket was definitely a factor. And actually Memphis is an area where we really haven't serviced that sort of zone ever before. So for all you fans of Bass Pro Shop and everything, make sure you get to Memphis and check out that Bass Pro Shop. I don't know what else you should do. I think Elvis's old home is there.
Yeah.
I was just getting ready to say, I am not surprised at all that like at the same time you were thinking about Memphis, you were thinking about Detroit, because again, Detroit has a certain stigma that it is struggling to outgrow. And it's one that Memphis currently has, right? So I don't know if you know this or not, Trevor, but Memphis currently has the highest homicide rates in the nation.
I mean, we've already done an event in Baltimore. How much?
Despite more, here's the thing: like per capita, more so than Baltimore, and this is despite overall crime being down. So, like, literally, they're like, "I'm not gonna steal stuff anymore. Like, it's just you get shot or not." Like, that's the Memphis experience.
Yeah. Look,
44 years of not right here, baby. Like, let's go.
The reality is, it's actually very easy to take cheap shots at pretty much every U.S. city.
For sure.
Like you'll get other people on other sides of the equation, questioning us for going to Florida or doing the thing in Los Angeles. And, the people who are happy about Florida are the people who probably don't want to go to LA, and the people who are in LA don't want to go to, Florida. Yeah. And it's like, and so you can't make everyone happy. And at the end of the day, we're just,
as long as the venue isn't in a public school, we'll be fine. We'll be safe.
Yeah.
That's the real danger zone.
It's so bad, man. It's so bad. Yeah. I don't know. The U.S. is it's a challenging place, but
it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got two of these left. Let's go to we're going to go to Bumblebee Scott via BlueSky.
Okay.
One of the coolest items at Calling Portland was the commemorative pint glasses acknowledging one of Portland's great pastimes and series like the Commoner Crawl. Will we see more stuff like this? And when will we see a cracked bobble tree ornament?
Okay. So a few things on this. First thing, that Calling 50th thing was a very cool commemorative thing that we could do with those pint glasses, which I actually have them sitting here. So I'm actually maybe like prepared for your question, but this was such a cool thing for us to do, the pint glass thing. And so, look, actually, if anyone is still looking for these, we have a few left. They're on the Fab Foundry website. So they're on Travis's website. If you missed out on them from the calling in Portland and you still want to relive history and you're looking for a little Christmas gift to treat yourself this holiday season, I will shamelessly plug that you should head over to Fab Foundry. They're available for a limited time. It's the first time we've done a pint glass set. It was like one of those things where it's like we were looking for some cool merch to do for the calling in Portland, and it's like, well, why don't we do these pint glasses? I mean, like Portland's a beer city. They've been doing this Commoner Crawl series, and we did this really cool commemorative coin that you get with it, as well as the playmat as well. If you buy the full kit, so you get this in the playmat and the coin. This was just one of those things where we wanted to do something really cool to celebrate the 50th. Really custom stuff for every single event is hard, just because the amount of time and resource that it takes to like design something on the creative side, to go and get prototypes made, to this sort of thing. So in general, like the big merchandise drops are usually going to happen at Pro Tours and World Championship, just because of the complexity that's involved. And we also want to make sure that we have like an economy of scale in terms of the number of people that are there that would be interested in buying the thing. Like, you're probably not going to see us roll out like a brand new piece of merch at a small calling or battle hardened somewhere. Like,
right.
It's very hard, right? Because like the total addressable market is a couple hundred people, right? So it's very hard to plan for that sort of thing. So look, we're going to continue to do cool merch. To their question about the crack bauble, though, this is so funny because this has actually been kind of like this running thing that we've talked about internally, like doing a cracked bauble Christmas ornament. Dude, it's really just a question of if not when. Like, it is going to happen. At least, provided I'm still with the company for a while. Like, it's going to happen at some point, right? So like this is low hanging bauble, let's say, and we should go and grab that low hanging bauble and do it. It's
easy money's best money, right?
Yeah. So honestly, the biggest thing is like we need to get Sam Yang to do like an actual 3D render.
Yeah.
Right now, everything is just like one side of the bauble, so we need to actually kind of get like a full rendering of it. And then then it's just a matter of getting molds made, doing a lot of QA, testing, and I don't even know why I said QA, but anyways, it's just a matter of testing it out, giving some feedback, and then going to production. But yeah, it's like one of those things that it's a low hanging bauble. We got to do it. So
yeah,
there's your answer.
Makes sense.
Like, yes. Yeah. So
last question at 2 hours and 21 minutes is from the venerable Michael Fang via BlueSky. 2-part. One, will Battle Harden and calling events continue to be the same price structure as they were in 2024? And 2, are there any plans to change their price structures in 2025?
Okay, so you guys probably saw we've got a new calling prize card that is rolling out next year. So Stonewall Gauntlet will be the 2025 calling prize card. First one will be given away in Prague. So the rest of the Balance of Justices will go into the vault alongside the Crown of Providences. It doesn't mean that those are being destroyed, right? Like, they're still on the Collector's Center, and they will be used for very specific occasions in the future, like a milestone calling or something of that, kind of like nature, something very special. But otherwise, the sort of, ordinary calling event is going to get Stonewall Gauntlet in 2025, and that will run its course for next year. As far as like the rest of the sorts of things, like, of course, we're working with battle hardened organizers as far as just making sure that they have clear communication about any additional prizes that they add to their battle hardens beyond the sort of like $2,000 prize purse that LSS puts up. I would say I wouldn't really expect like much to really change there. On the calling side, look, we've got $10,000, $20,000, and $30,000 callings, and we publish that information up front on the event pages on our website. These are roughly correlated to what we anticipate the attendance of some of these events being. So yeah, and what we think is appropriate for the market. For 2025, look, we've got a $1.5 million world tour going on next year, and we have some additional ways that you can, dive into that $1.5 million pot with our World Tour Player of the Year race. So, Michael, I think you're one of the current leaders in that, but it's a long year. There's a lot of callings and the big pro tours and world championships to come, and those events definitely have the lion's share of points available. So I think those are going to be the big things as far as 2025 goes. You've got the world tour stuff, you've got the points that you can acquire from the world tour, but nothing too radical as far as prize payouts at shows go. I think that's all going to stay the same for the most part. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, no notes on that, I guess. 2 hours and 25 minutes, pretty clean.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
So it's probably time to thank some patrons, because they're the people that give us money to make sure that we can pay for this show still. And I, per normal, did not have this pulled up ahead of time because I'm just a fucking dipshit. Like 2/3 of the time, I am just dumb as shit. So I am doing it right now, which will take me 2 seconds. There we go. So for our associate producers, we have Andy, Sindra, Jacob, and the Salty Sea Cat. For our executive producers on up, we have Blaystorm, valued member of the Patreon, Lance Good Thrust, Matt Two Tokes, Poxanus, Sergeant Disbjorn, Trevor Baker, no, not that one, Philip, Richard, Sergeant Swanson, and Matt Wynn, who is the so we Trevor have are well known for making mistakes at Flesh and Pod. And one of the mistakes that we have made, and people have now discovered since I didn't advertise it because I really am bad at marketing this shit, is that I put a tier out there in Patreon that if you support us at that tier for 3 months, you get to guest host on the show. There's no way this could blow up my face, right?
Wow.
No way whatsoever. I'm fucked. Like, that's just all there is. No way. But however, if you are interested in supporting the show and potentially guest hosting at some point in time, you can go to patreon.com/
just so you know.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I'm in the middle of my raid, you piece of shit.
I know, but this is really important because I just realized I have a scheduling conflict and I wanted to let you know. So the week that Riddler Man is co-hosting because he has sponsored it, I have a conflict and I will not be available to host, so you will have to find somebody to be in my spot.
I will cancel the tier. But that's why.
Anyway,
fuck,
keep
man?
going.
You shit stirring. All right. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link is in the show notes. There are 6 tiers to support us at. Pick one. If you pay for it, any tier, you get to come on to FAP After Dark, which is just a live show we do where we don't record it. So we can kind of say a lot of different things without the ears of others necessarily, or recordings or anything on wax. It's not that we are ashamed of what we say or anything along those lines. It's just that some conversations get wild. Like when we were talking about what Greg should do with his mother-in-law's ashes. That discussion got fucking weird real fast. But we learned a lot that night. It was really good. It's good and therapeutic. If you need to contact the show, you can find us. You can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. The Twitter account is likely going to be deactivated in a week and change. It's just I don't know. It's just not a good space for Flesh and Blood anymore. Most everybody migrated to BlueSky, so might as well just do that. Darick, where can they find you?
The best place is to ping me in our Discord, which, by the way, you don't have to be a member of the Patreon to join, right? We're open to everybody.
24/7, yeah.
access the link. If you can't find the link, then message us. We'll send
It's
it to you.
in the show notes, for God's sakes.
It's Charmer and most other places. So on BlueSky, because you can tie domains to it, it's at charmer.com. On Twitter, I'm not nearly as active there anymore, but I do keep the account mostly because I don't want somebody to try to impersonate me there. But that one is that Charmer, because despite me doing business as Charmer and owning the URL and doing all those other things, that's somehow not enough to prove to them that I'm me and to get the dead account from them that's been vacant for like 13 years, because that place is not a dumpster fire whatsoever. But like YouTube is just Charmer as well. Twitch, I'm just Charmer. Like it's easy to get me in most other places. I'm not bitter or anything.
What's it like being so important that you have to care about people impersonating you? Can you tell me what that's like?
Look, I don't think it's because they would impersonate me for like my fame as much as that they would have a personal vendetta against me and would like to enact it in such a way. I ruffle a fair amount of feathers.
That's very true.
By being completely uncontroversial. Like I don't understand how I get into as much crap as I do for being the most middle of the road guy I know.
Because it's because you're ungovernable.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Trevor, where can they find you if they want to get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, well you can find me on this forsaken platform called Twitter X. That's at Trev Baker, TrevBaker. You can find me on, I don't know, Facebook /W Baker. I don't really post there much, but you could probably slide into my messages there. If you want to get a hold of the Premier OP team, you can shoot us an email, premier@FaBTCG.com. We can go from there. I think I created a BlueSky, but I haven't used it. It's just TW Baker. You probably don't even have a profile picture there. I don't know what's going to happen in the world of social media, but if you need to find me, I don't know. If you need to find me in a professional setting, just email the Premier team, and we'll make sure that your message gets to the right place. So that's just Premier at FaBTCG.com. I don't know. It's the holidays. People, take care of one another, spend time with the people that you care with, enjoy these slower days where you have a chance to, spend time with your loved ones, your kids, your family members you don't get to see very often, especially to our flesh and blood family. Like, the year is going to get busy. Prague is going to be here before we know it in less than 4 weeks. And there's going to be a lot of events next year. It's the most ambitious event schedule we've ever, put together. So, take some time in these slower days. This is the first year that we've ran events this late into December, and we'll continue to do that next year. It's very clear people want to have a season after Worlds and be able to play some events, but enjoy these couple weeks of, let's say, off season in the holiday period, and enjoy the slower days. Enjoy where your work is probably slowing down a little bit, or unless you're in retail, and then you have to enjoy a few weeks in January when it slows down a little bit. But enjoy these days that you have with your family, friends, and people that are close to you, because it's going to be a busy year, and it'll be April, and we'll be in London before you know it. It'll be it'll be July, and we'll be somewhere in Southeast Asia before you know it, and it'll be November, and we'll be somewhere in the United States. So look, there's a lot of things to look forward to. So I'll give the fans one thing. U.S. Nationals is returning to Las Vegas next year. So that is my little nugget
there it is.
Of info. You've
breaking
the
news
podcast for 2.5 hours. U.S. Nationals is coming to Las Vegas
because this will go up on Tuesday. So
there you go. Yeah.
But I actually think I got that one right too, because I said I thought it was going to be in Vegas.
Yep. So we're going back to the Westgate, and details will be coming out soon. So we'll see everyone for U.S. Nationals in Las Vegas next year. So
and that comes out in 2.5 hours. Well, shit. So as per usual, we'll be behind it, not after you have breaking news.
No, it's not. What do you mean? I haven't posted anything. You get to be the purveyor of.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
This comes out on Tuesday, but the show does.
Yeah, the show does. I mean, I'm not putting anything on the website yet, so yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you'll have heard it here first. We will be putting in the show notes that there's breaking news.
We never get to break news, let alone are like filming before the news breaks.
Yeah,
I don't even know what to do right now.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, it's not one of the thing is, like, it's actually better I share it here, because otherwise it's just going to like appear on the website one day that we're going to Las Vegas. So I rather give people a little nugget of excitement that we're going back to the Westgate in June next year. So that'll be a lot of fun. So Las Vegas
Fantastic.
Nationals. So there'll be a room block as there was before. You can stay on the hotel campus. You don't have to go outside. Don't worry about the heat. You literally get to Vegas. You can stay in the Westgate for 4 days if you want. So that'll be coming this June. RTN season is right around the corner, so we were going to have to tell people soon anyways. So
that's fair.
So there you go. We're going back to Vegas, baby. Vegas, baby. So
let's get fucked up in Vegas. But before then, Trevor, we'll see you in Prague.
Yep.
And thank you for coming on. We really do appreciate everything you do. Honestly, the event side of this has gotten better and better over time. I think you're a big part of that. So we really sincerely appreciate all your efforts and giving us the time, because, it's a good conversation to have. You're welcome anytime you want to come on and say something. That's for sure.
Sounds good. Yeah, we definitely covered a lot of ground here. So thank you guys for the chance to chat this holiday after this holiday evening. It's like late in the night wherever you are. It's only 8:52 here in Portland, but it must be
for those keeping track at home, it is 11:52 p.m. on December 22nd here in Michigan. This is not a live stream, just so we're clear. For whoever needs to hear that.
Yeah,
I'm skeeting right now.
I still have time to go grab dinner. There's still Chipotle open or something like that. So I can still get out there and grab some dinner. But for you guys, you have to go to bed. So
I got work in the morning, so I'll turn in after this.
So just one last thing, man. The college football playoff games the last 2 days completely sucked.
They were fucking awful.
So bad. I was so excited to watch this Indiana Notre Dame game. I thought it was actually going to be a good game, and damn, that was not good. And all the games on Saturday sucked too. Even the Texas game was the Texas game was close for 5 minutes, and then it was not again. And then Ohio State just freaking trampled over Tennessee. So. Look, I think the bowl games on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, those are going to be some great games. And well,
this is the way we thought it would shake out, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true. It actually makes me think maybe we should just have 8 teams in the playoffs, and then
that's kind of was my thought.
Yeah, and then we could have just ranked the 8 teams the way they should have been, and we wouldn't have the 2 best teams playing in the Rose Bowl. But whatever.
Well, also just SMU's whole "we should be in there" is just fucking shot to shit. So they got blasted.
So look, go Ducks. I'm going to the Rose Bowl. I'm going to follow their journey. Let's see if we can win a natty this year. But if you know anything about me, I'm a University of Oregon alum, and so I hope we take it down. But let's see. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Trevor, again for giving me that piece of information. I just skeeted it, so now it's important that they'd have to listen to the show on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, will you take care of yourself? And I cannot wait for Prague. We'll get together, have a few 2 euro beers, a few too many 2 euro beers, and try to survive 24 hours of Az. But to everybody else out there, have a happy holiday, have a Merry Christmas, have a fantastic Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Enjoy it. And we will see you on the other side for our end of year retrospective, which we've never done. But other than that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye.